Ancient Buddhas are such dangerous creatures, and the water in the capital he is in is also very deep. If you are not careful, you can easily lose your life. But who made me the main character? Super lucky. Fall on one's feet. Pick up money every day and go to the hook bar. Life is worry-free. But this is only the surface of Xu Qian'an. Behind his back, even he didn't know. It's just a pawn in the hands of an old silver coin. The beginning of the story. Xu Qian'an is still dreaming. But suddenly, a pungent smell rushed to his head. He thought it must be the big smart guy in the family. Ran to the bed and again. When he opened his eyes, he looked. A huge ass is facing his face. Xu Qian'an subconsciously tried to push him away. Just the next moment, the dog is gone. On the contrary, there is something more in his hands. He is now imprisoned in Jingzhou Mansion. But he remembered. Yesterday was not at the bar. Celebrate yourself with that rabble? But suddenly a tingling pain came. Xu Qian's brain seemed to explode. A memory that doesn't belong to you. It was constantly in his mind. Xu Qian's words are rather reading. My father died 19 years ago in the battle of mountains and seas. The mother then died of illness. He was raised by his second uncle since he was a child. Perennial martial arts. At the age of 18, he cultivated to the peak of alchemy. Since then, it has stagnated, relying on the relationship between the second uncle. It has become the catcher of Changle County, which is under the jurisdiction of Jingzhou Mansion. Xu Qian'an realized it. I've crossed over. Or a catcher. This is the old man who has crossed over and is also going to be back to the police. As for why he's in prison now, it was because of 3 days ago. The second uncle, Xu Zhiping, is a 7th-grade green planar sword captain. 3 days ago, escorted a batch of tax silver to the complimentary way. 150,000 taels of silver were lost. The Holy One was furious. He personally ordered Xu Zhiping to be beheaded 5 days later. The men of the 3 ethnic groups are assigned to the border. The female dependents were sent to the workshop division. As Xu Zhiping's own nephew, Xu Qian'an was removed from his post and sent to prison in Jingzhou Mansion. And the day he was sent to the frontier. There are only 2 days left. Is this a bad start to hell mode? The world was still in a state of feudal dynasty rule. There are no human rights. What is the borderland? The territory is desolate. The climate is harsh. Most of the prisoners who were assigned to the border, they don't live more than 10 years. And many more are yet to reach the border. He died on the way due to various accidents or diseases. Xu Qian'an swallowed, fantasizing that there must still be a chance. So he whispered about the system. System Dad, come out of here. Just after a long time, only Xu Qian'an was always like a fool. Call Daddy there. There is no system at all. I had to find a way to save myself. I can't just take it with me. So he thought of the first way to escape from prison. He is the 9th product of the martial arts system. That is the pinnacle of alchemy. The physical fitness is scary. But in this world, it belongs to the indomitable silver rank. The plan to break from prison was stillborn. The second option, by clan and friends. But the Xu family is not a big family. And the people were scattered all over the place. And a full 150,000 taels of silver were robbed. Who would dare to intercede on this bone-grubbing eye? It's definitely not going to work. Then there is only one way left. According to the law of Taiho, making amends excuses for capital offenses. I want to finish, unless the money is recovered. And now he's in prison again. There is no detailed information on the case file. The current situation is really broken. It's useless in my throat. It's just this time. A man came in with a jailer to visit. This person just stopped in front of Xu Weifan. The person who came was Xu Xingyan, the son of his second uncle, Xu Zhiping, who resigned himself. Own cousin. Dafeng is a new lifter. Studied at Yinlu College. He is the strongest king who is good at spitting fragrant mouths. He remembered that the original owner did not have a good relationship with this cousin. And the purpose of this time is to tell Xu Qian. The soldiers who escorted him to the border received 300 taels from Xu Qian'an. This is the only silver left in their family. It can be guaranteed that Qian will have no accidents on the way to the road. And this Xu Qian'an, the fame has been removed, but there is the mayor of the academy to protect him. You don't have to be assigned. Xu Qian stared at Xu Qian'an, who had a breezy face. He knows. Fear. Xu Qian'an is not just as simple as being dismissed. You have to be naturalized. Children and grandchildren shall not be harsh. Never turn over. And the daughters of the Xu family were sent to the teaching department 2 days later. Humiliated, Xu Qian'an is a scholar. How can he still have the face to survive in this capital? Xu Qian directly stated his purpose. Do you want funds? Xu Qian'an looked at his cousin in front of him in horror. Just a few words, with a few facial expressions, I guess what I wanted to do. But he still stubbornly turned his head, coldly threw out a sentence that has nothing to do with you. Then there was a pause. It's still a little unbearable. After all, it's all family. And then with a resolute word, you live well. After saying that, he turned around and left. Xu Qian grabbed him. Are you kidding? Now is not the time to give up. He stared at Xu Qian'an, said solemnly, the file helped me finish the file of the lost silver case. Modern forensic methods, crime scene investigation, surveillance, and autopsy are indispensable. But there was no monitoring in ancient times. In the case of the loss of tax money, no one died, but he was killed, imprisoned. Now the only breakthrough is the dossier. Fortunately, the dossier can restore the crime scene to a certain extent. It's just that. Xu Qian'an didn't understand why Xu Qian wanted a file at all. If Xu Qian said that I want to solve the case, something like that, Xu Qian'an probably thought that his brain was what? Xu Qian could only make an excuse casually. I want to know what happened. Those who die will also die understand that it is not. Xu Qian'an didn't think much about it. I've read the dossier. I can tell you, it's just that Xu Qian refused. You go and write it down. There is no point in dictating. He needed to know all the details of the case. It's easy to dictate. Subconsciously ignore a part, something that you don't think is important. Xu Qian'an didn't say anything. He turned around and left, looked at Xu Qian'an's back, getting farther and farther away. Whether you live or die depends on what follows. After a long time, as a burst of footsteps got closer, Xu Qian'an is back. He wrote the dossier verbatim. Xu Qian couldn't wait to sit down. Look, I didn't hear what Xu Qian'an behind him was saying. Xu Qian'an was also helpless. Maybe this time, it's the last time we'll see each other in this life. You have to take care. After saying that, he turned around and left. And Xu Qian is still immersed in the file. Just after a long time, Xu Qian sighed and proved it. Reading is still useful. He was mainly illiterate. I don't even recognize these ghost symbols. 3 days ago, it was 2 o'clock. That's 6:30 in the morning. Yu Dao escorted a batch of broken silver into Beijing for Xu Jiping. Hour and moment. The procession marched to Guangnam Street. Just after crossing the bridge, a strange wind suddenly set off. The horses were frightened and rushed into the river by the street. Then a deafening explosion was heard. The river rises 6 feet high. The turbidity is surging. The soldiers leaped into the river in search of silver. But only 1,250 taels of silver were recovered. The rest of the silver was gone. Xu Qian looked confused. What is this all about? The other side. A group of bigwigs in the back hall of Jingzhou Mansion are really deliberating. Jingzhou Prefecture In Chunhongguang said, "The Holy Lord ordered me to wait before Xu Jiping was beheaded. Catch back sleepiness. But now there are only 2 days left. The 2 adults need to hurry." Li Yuchen heard this. Xu Jiping. Is there anything new there? Fu Yin was helpless. A martial artist will only shout loudly about wrongdoing. He didn't even know how he lost his tax money. And Chu Kaiwei on the side said that I had forgotten to count him. Xu Qian'an did not lie. Chu Kaiwei is the youngest disciple of Xu Qian'an's supervisor. The crowd began to worry. Fu Yindao, we investigated and tortured Xu Qian'an. Interpersonal and financial situations are touched. And then cooperate with Xi Tianjin's forgotten number. Suspicion has now been ruled out, but the tax money is lost. Xu Qian'an's dereliction of duty is still a capital crime. On the other hand, Chu Kaiwei on the side. It didn't affect his appetite in the slightest. Still eating sugar cane there. I can see that Li Yuchen has black moss in his head, and at this time a piece of bagasse, and didn't fall where he should be. Li Yuchen's heart tightened, hurriedly ventilated his hands, lifted the bagasse up, put it back where he was supposed to be. Li Yuchen felt comfortable all over his body at this moment. You can see it, another obsessive-compulsive person. And then there was a sound of footsteps. A subordinate came in with a bag of buns. There is also a letter from Xi Tianjin. Handed it over to Chu Kaiwei. Chu Kaiwei glanced at the letter. Xi Tianjin said that it was 20 miles along the way. No demonic energy was observed in Hanoi. There is no trace of demonic energy on the shore. Hearing such news made the two of them nervous. Where can 150,000 taels of silver be brought? He's got to go ashore. It's been 3 days. We couldn't even find any trace of each other. And Li Yuchen is very calm. Could it be that our investigation is in the wrong direction? Maybe it wasn't the monster's doing. It's not a monster. Then where did the demon wind come from? Name into the river. How did it just disappear out of thin air? At this time, Xu Qian'an was fascinated by the dossier. It's just this time. He uncovered a key clue. Monsters. How can it withstand the waves of water several feet high? There will also be an array on both sides of the river. There are yokai in this world. The demon clan has existed since ancient times. Hunting with humans. Devour each other. In the 100,000 mountains of southern Xinjiang, there is one of the largest gatherings of demons. 10,000 demon kingdom v. 100 years ago. The Western countries are under the leadership of Buddhism. Declare war on the 10,000 demon kingdoms in southern Xinjiang. A war was fought before and after. In the end, the 10,000 demon kingdom was leveled. The history books call this battle the Jiazi demon. Since the luck of the demon clan is damaged. Fade away. And Buddhism has soared to the sky since then. Blessings and prosperity. But I don't know what to do. Is there any use for these monsters to rob the broken silver? Although demons never ask their hearts when they do things. Get away with murder. Li Yuchen sighed. He couldn't figure it out either. It's just this time. Chu Kaiwei opened her mouth and said that it was the monster's doing. Isn't human flesh more delicious? What do they want for money? But wait until he finishes. Looked at the buns in his hands full of human flesh. It's disgusting to think about. But for a foodie, waste is shameful. He gobbled it up one by one. It didn't take a while. All the buns in his hand were wiped out by him. Only then did he say lightly, "Silver in the eyes of demons. There may not be a temptation from a living person, even if you want to steal or rob silver. It's safer than robbing the tax money directly in Dafeng capital." Fu Yin pondered for a moment. It makes sense. However, it cannot be ruled out that he was instructed by others. It's just that Li Yuchen is puzzled. Then who would point the demons to steal the tax money? What is the reason? Why does it have to be this batch of tax silver? It had to be 150,000 taels. Fu Yin is also a big head. Or behind the scenes. The lordship needs a huge sum of money. But you can't accumulate money unscrupulously. That's why I'm eyeing tax silver. But Li Yuchen also pointed out a suspicious point. The route of the tax silver escort is random. It is up to Xu Qian'an to decide on an ad hoc basis. But the monster can ambush in the river in advance. There is a high probability that there will be infighting in the escort team. Then he proposed, go to Yunlu Academy to find a Confucian sage to ask your heart. But Xu Qian'an, who was in a plate, was unhappy. Do you look down on our Xu Qian'an's banner technique? I've said it all. The soldiers who escorted the tax silver in the factory were unaware. Li Yuchen didn't dare to reply. He can't afford to offend Xu Qian'an. Just the next moment, Xu Qian'an diverted her attention by herself. Before sunset, I have to get rid of this errand. Depart Zhangzhou Mansion. Enter the palace to find the eldest princess. Think of the food in the palace. He couldn't help but laugh. Fu Yin can't help it. At the moment, the progress of the case is slow, and time is of the essence. Lord Li might as well go and ask Duke Wei how to do it. Li Yuchen heard this. He drank coldly. You civil servants have been inspected. We also have a watchman. This is the assessment that Wei Gong gave me. Bao Yin helplessly. This doesn't work, that doesn't work. Now the government and the opposition are watching us. And in prison, Xu Qian'an was holding the file with a dull expression. I thought about traveling back in time. Copying the scriptures of poetry is pretending to be forced. Take the opportunity to flirt with your sister. Who would have thought that he would be beaten by society after crossing over? If it's really a monster, there must be nothing I can do. But this is just Jin Zhaofu's speculation. You can't be influenced by their speculation. You'll have to analyze it yourself. Maybe salvage. Why did the witch steal the sleeping silver? For them. Isn't human flesh more fragrant? Even if there is a lack of silver, there's no need to stare at sleeping silver. The scriptures say, the demon girls of the demon clan are all charming. Exquisite. I don't know if there are cat girls and dog mothers who have their thoughts drifting. Flying too far, Xu Qian'an decisively gave himself a slap. After all, he is a well-known, upright gentleman. What is effective reasoning? After Xu Qian'an gave himself a slap, he analyzed it with a solemn face. There are two doubts about this tax and silver case. One is the demon wind. Except for Takeo, the major cultivation systems all possess the ability to blow demon winds. Therefore, the peak can only indicate that there are practitioners involved. The suspicion of the second uncle, who was born in the fifth husband, was alleviated, although it cannot be ruled out that he conspired with others. The second is the explosion. It's normal for a high-ranking cultivator to explode during a battle. But in this case, there is no such thing as armed fighting. Therefore, the appearance of the explosion was unreasonable, unless it has to explode in the major cultivation systems of this world. What profession there is, you need to explode to achieve your goal. Come to think of it, he suddenly found himself being led astray. I made the same mistake as Jin Zhaofu. Judgments are made only on the most obvious clues in the case. It's just too hasty. I need to change my thinking. Suppose this is a well-planned man-made event. Perhaps the flaw is not in the two most conspicuous clues. It's on these all sorts of traces. Suddenly, Xu Qian'an's mind seemed to explode. Suddenly the thought came to mind. He hurriedly knocked on the iron door, shouting loudly. Sure enough, it didn't take long for the jailer to find out. Say something impatiently. But Xu Qian'an looked proud. Tell you to serve Yin. I have important clues to the Yin case. And the other side, Fu Yin, they really can't think of a way. I plan to take the file and go to the guard yamen to ask for a guard. Xu Qian'an kindly reminded. It will be up to the great powers of our great power. You two don't have to be held accountable by your majesty. But in Wei Gong's heart, losing points can be more serious than being held accountable by his majesty. Li Yuchen was speechless. But what can be done? At this time, a subordinate came to appease Lord Yin. The jailer reported to Su Zhiping's nephew Xu Qian'an. It is said that there are important clues in the tax and silver case. Fu Yin was taken aback. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. Bring someone over and ask for it first. After a while, Xu Qian'an wore a bracelet and anklet. Slowly walked to the yamen of Jingzhou Mansion. Xu Qian'an observed. The one wearing the flying robe should be the 4-rank official Fu Yin. and the uncle next to him embroidered with a silver snail on his chest. It should be organized by the watchman. Just next. He froze where he was. This girl is so good-voiced. I don't know if I'm married. Then Xu Qian's gaze slid down. I saw grassland. Immediately the interest was halved, so he hurriedly bowed. It's not nonsense to see adults Fuyin. Xu Qian was released from prison 3 days ago. You didn't say you had any important clues. You know the consequences of concealing and not reporting it. Xu Qi was relieved to slander his abdomen. This officialdom old fritter is even in a hurry. Never asked for clues, but I can come here myself. The plan is also halfway there. My lord Xu Jiaolang just came to me. I asked him for the dossier. The grass people deduced the truth of the case from the file. Fu Yin and Li Yuchen couldn't sit still at all. With the dossier alone, Xu Qian replied unhurriedly. Adultery is not the work of monsters. It's artificial. When someone says something more than you know, man's subconscious is to refute. Then it's a matter of finding all kinds of arguments. Go and prove what you say wrong. Xu Qian said that the tax and silver case was not done by monsters. It's about being human. Fu Yin directly scolded you, hairy boy. It's just nonsense. The monster robbing the tax money is almost a foregone conclusion. Someone drag him down. Kane scolding 200 Xu Qian didn't react for a while. That's all I said. Just hit 200 and there is no royal law. The next person doesn't care about you so much. When he came up, he planned to press Xu Qian. It's just this time. A word came slowly. That's exactly what Li Yuchen said. He was very curious why Xu Qian dared to say such a thing. Xu Qian breathed a sigh of relief. According to the confession of the guards of the city gates, my second uncle entered the city at 2 o'clock in the morning. Hour and moment. The procession escorting the tax silver arrived at Guangnam Street. At this time, a strange wind suddenly rose. The horses were frightened. Rush into the river. Fu Yin interrupted impatiently, and we all know this. Monsters hide in the river, waiting for an opportunity to snatch the tax money. Xu Qian also interrupted him. No, the demon wind and the explosion are just tricks. In fact, it's to make you ignore a fatal flaw. Fu Yin and they were shocked. There are also flaws that they don't see. Xu Qian went on to say that my second uncle escorted 150,000 taels of tax silver. Dare to ask the 3 adults. 150,000 taels of silver weighed a few caddies. All 3 were silent. The devil knows how many pounds. Xu Qian also took it. Isn't it handsome at all? It was 9,375 pounds. In addition to Kai weighs doubts. What does this mean? Xu Qi is tired with peace of mind. What to say? It means that little sister, you are not very smart, Yazzie. Xu Qian continued to ask from the city gate to Guangnan Street. How much is the distance? 30 miles, and then the 2 of them were here to ask and answer. On the way, it passes through several downtown areas. How the feet of the 4 slaves become. Li Yuchen just wanted to answer. But he suddenly realized a very serious problem. The timing is not right. Guangnam Street is 30 miles from the South City Gate. With the strength of the crossbow's feet, there are 4 downtown areas along the way. Enter the city at 2 o'clock. It is impossible to arrive at Guangnam Street at the first moment of the hour. Li Yuchen was horrified. But the not-so-smart little sister still didn't understand. The tax money was indeed escorted to Guangnan Street at the time of the hour. Then, there were also many people who saw horses rushing into the river. It can't be fake. This river explains. Li Yuchen couldn't answer when he heard this. Come up, because he just knows that the time is not right. Xu Qian explained, because the escort was not silver at all. Fu Yin couldn't sit still. Isn't this nonsense? Let's not talk about it. Do your second uncle and the escort soldier have glasses? The file contains the confessions of the people who were present at the time. The horses rushed into the river. The silver of the white flower rolled into the water. Is this also fake? Xu Qian'an knows. Now it's no longer convincing to rely on words. So I borrowed pen and paper. I drew a random stroke on it, then hand it over to Fu Yin and say that the Lord, please follow the grass people's request. Prepare what you write on paper. Fu Yin took a look, although I don't know what Xu Qian'an is going to do. But his first reaction was that it was really ugly this time. Chu Kaiwei took a look. I thought it was something. It's just an ordinary thing written by a vulgar Takeo. And everybody watched. Li Yuchen naturally wants to take a look. Just when I took it, the top corners of the paper are crumpled, seeing that Li Yuchen's whole body was uncomfortable. Then he waved his little hand impatiently. Finger pulls out Zhang Yunji. Instantly, I felt like the world was a little better. After a long time, Xu Qian'an has all the things he wants. The floating shadow said faintly, everything was here. Be sure to give us a satisfactory answer. But Xu Qian'an was not in a hurry. Rather, it was defeated. If the grass people solve the case, can His Majesty Shangshu absolve my Xu family from responsibility? Fu Yin nodded according to the law of Daebong. Meritorious service for his father. Naturally exonerated from guilt. This time, Xu Weifan has no worries. I turned around and started to prepare. Modern people travel back in time to do chemistry experiments. What an experience. Xu Qian'an prepared raw rice paper with water, salt, iron wire, porcelain cups, bamboo sticks, candles. Everything is ready to go, although he wasn't sure if the tax silver from the explosion was him. But that doesn't matter. The important thing is to open up a train of thought. Explain to them the phenomenon of how tax silver explodes. And what he has to do now is simple. Sodium metal is extracted using the chemistry knowledge learned in high school. The first step is to melt the coarse salt with water. Step 2. Cover the rim of the cup with raw rice paper. Then slowly pour in the salt water. Step 3. Place the filtered brine on top of the candle and grill it. Step 4. Stir constantly with a bamboo skewer until the brine is steam dry. Sodium chloride precipitation. The next part is the hardest part. Melting point of electricity and sodium chloride. Resting in ancient times, these two simply could not be completed. But there is a profession in this world that can do it. Then he reached out to Master Rose. It's Si Tianjin's disciple. The reason why Xu Qian'an asked. It's because Chu Kaiwei is wearing a gossip. This thing is except for Si Tianjin's disciples. I don't think anyone will use it. I saw Chu Kaiwei say proudly. The family background is the supervisor of the heavens. Xu Qian'an ignored his arrogance. Trouble my sister to help me melt these shortcuts. But Chu Kaiwei was a little difficult. An ability that only firefighters and alchemists have. I'm just a feng shui master. However, his master gave him a magic weapon. He waved it slightly, and there was a flame of fire. Xu Qian'an hurriedly stepped back. The flame fell right into crystal. Xu Qian'an saw the opportunity to stop, then put the wire in, then called Chu Kaiwei to power up. Xu Qi sighed with peace of mind. This step is hard. Probably fail many times. Chu Kaiwei drew thunder out of the gossip when she changed her hand. Then there was a crackling crackle, and it slashed towards the crystal. Xu Qian'an hurriedly stopped, and then all that's left is apprehension. But fortunately, the O Huang possessed a shock. The metal was extracted successfully. Xu Qian'an poured him out. A few adults, please take a look. It's much lighter than silver, but the appearance is extremely similar. Is there anyone going to use this thing to impersonate the real thing? Inzi Fuyin picked it up and looked at it. Sure enough, it was a lot lighter. If that is the luck of the day, that makes sense. It's just that Kai Wei is confused. You're also an alchemist. Xu Qian'an scratched his head in embarrassment. I'm just a chemical porter. And Fu Yin noticed the key point at this time. What about that explosion? Xu Qian'an was not in a hurry to explain. Take over the sodium metal, then put it in the water. Then the water in the cup seems to be boiling. A moment later, the whole cup exploded. This scene shocked everyone's hearts. How is this possible? What kind of time-traveling drama is this? Let netizens call out that they don't understand chemistry. I didn't even dare to cross over. Xu Qian'an put sodium metal into the water and caused an explosion. This explains it. Why what happened after the silver fell into the water? Li Yuqian groaned. Let's put it this way. We were misled from the start. The mastermind behind the scenes uses explosions and demonic winds as bait. Shift the focus of the investigation. It's no wonder that Xi Tianjian's vigorous qi technique can't observe monsters. Chu Kaiwei is also a bit brainy. At the beginning, it was said that no monsters were observed. You are not unbelieving. Xu Qian'an hurriedly took over the conversation. I'm afraid they're really arguing here. After the tax, silver fell into the water. The soldiers recovered only more than 1,000 taels of silver. If you guessed correctly, the silver was spread on top to hide the eyes of the people. Only then did Li Yuqian return his attention to Xu Qian'an. This kid in front of you, I actually got all the suspicions right. What a genius. Thinking about it, I planned to praise Xu Qian'an. It's just that. Then I saw Xu Qian'an's crumpled opinion. That damn obsessive-compulsive disorder. It went straight to Li Yuqian's head. But he pretended to be calm. A hand was heavily placed on Xu Qian'an's shoulder. Take advantage of the situation. The next moment, the whole world was beautiful. However, Xu Qian'an would be wrong. I was tapped on the shoulder. Could it be that this adult appreciates himself? And at this time, Fu Yin spoke, since the silver is fake. Where did the real silver go? Chu Kaiwei guessed. Tax silver out of the warehouse into Beijing. Layer by layer. As for sin, a large number of officials were imprisoned. Recovering the silver is no less difficult than finding a needle in a haystack. And this matter is beyond our remit. I have to tell your majesty. Li Yuqian sighed. The tax baby was escorted all the way into Beijing. Layer by layer. If it's fake, it's long overdue. The only possibility is that it was only recently dropped. Fu Yin was taken aback by this sentence. I just dropped the bag recently. Then he hurried out. Calling a man is told that he wants to travel. Xu Qian'an looked at him in a hurry. Also, hurriedly caught up. Lord Fu Yin, don't forget your promise to the grass people. Fu Yin did not respond. Xu Qi sighed with peace of mind. Hopefully, the tax money will be recovered before he is exiled. If it is after his own exile, even if it's recovered, can't change the ending of the Xu family. And in case this Fu Yin is a maggot with a black heart, I want to take the credit to myself. That's just a matter of fate. It's just this time, a sweet voice came. Why salt turns into silver. Then, I saw Chu Kaiwei rummaging for something in the bag. Then a sugar cane was taken out. Xu Qian'an exclaimed that this was the 8 treasure bags of the robot cat. Then, Chu Kaiwei stretched out the sugar cane in front of Xu Qian'an. This one is for you to eat. Xu Qian'an was stunned and used this to buy me. Take this to test the cadres. I wanted to challenge my weakness. But he then said, the grass people were in ancient books. Seen the alchemy that turns salt into silver. Chu Kaiwei hurriedly asked what kind of ancient book it was. Xu Qian'an said, in the middle of the Fei High School chemistry. Do you understand? An ancient book. However, I still remember the contents below. But the grass people are now in danger. I'm not in the mood to think about ancient books. Chu Kaiwei is helpless. You are slippery. Our Xi Tianjian never interferes in government affairs. Your Majesty has the final say on what to do with you. Xu Qian'an said with a flattering face. You will not accept me as a disciple. With the position of the superintendent in the court, it's okay to ask an incorruptible person to commit it. But Chu Kaiwei is puzzled. You are obviously a martial artist. Why be a warlock? Xu Qian'an said righteously. Because I admire the demeanor of the supervisor. Chu Kaiwei could see at a glance that he was lying. But he said it anyway. Tell me the contents of the ancient alchemy book first. Xu Qian'an pondered for a moment, and the content was a little profound. I'm afraid you can't understand it. It takes nuanced explanations to be ingrained. Chu Kaiwei snorted disdainfully and looked at Kyushu. On alchemy, I think of heaven and warlock as the leader. Xu Qian took a deep breath. Then, I memorized all kinds of terms in high school chemistry. Chu Kaiwei was dizzy when she heard this. What is this? Could it be that he is playing with himself? Then the sugar cane was snatched back. He turned around and left. When you can walk to the door. Chu Kaiwei glanced back at Xu Qian. Then he said to him, "We are both disciples and disciples. Only children are accepted." Xu Qian stretched out his hand and wanted to say something. Can't wait for Chu Kaiwei to leave. He just said that I'm also a child. Said it, and the eldest brother of the jailer next to him comforted Xu Qian. Say this sentence. Don't you feel ashamed? Besides how old you are. Don't you have points? Xu Jiping's royal knife is a 7th-grade green robe. Because of the loss of tax money, he was beheaded. The men of the 3 tribes were exiled. The female dependents were sent to the workshop division. The 5-day deadline has expired. He knew that his fate was not long in coming. I just thought about it and affected my family. Xu Jiping was loyal and patriotic all his life. Conscientious. In the end, it ended up like this. But the jailer on the side couldn't listen to it. Go out and sign the draw and postpone. You can leave. Xu Jiping thought he had misheard. But the jailer returned the official uniform to him directly. Xu Jiping looked at his official uniform. It's like a dream. What the hell is going on? The lady on the side immediately jumped out. Said it must be our son. These are the days of the new year running outside. The court just opened up the net. But Xu Jiping was puzzled. It stands to reason that it can be exonerated from the death penalty. But it's impossible to reinstate the official. Xu Jiping asked suspiciously. The jailer said lightly that the case had been solved. The tax money was also recovered. According to the law of the gray bag, there are elders in the family who have broken the law. The offspring can make meritorious contributions to the father's sin. The lady tearfully praised her son for his success. It's a dragon and a phoenix among people or something. But then he stared at Xu Jiping viciously. Said that I let him practice martial arts back then. You don't promise. I have to let Xu Qian's little cub practice martial arts. The implication of blame is obvious. But Xu Jiping didn't want his son to practice martial arts. He's not that material at all. The jailer on the side couldn't stand it. Coughed twice and said it was your nephew Xu Qian. He blessed Lord Yin to solve the tax and silver case. People have just left, and they should be waiting for you at the back door at this moment. The couple spurted out a mouthful of 82-year-old blood. And Mrs. is even more thunderous. Didn't the son dredge up the relationship and save the family? How could it be that unlucky nephew? Isn't he in prison? I feel dizzy at the thought of it. And through the back door of the Zhao mansion. Xu Qian waited for a long time and didn't see anyone come out. Just a little impatient. Xu Jiping, they came out. Xu Qian hurriedly said hello. The moment Xu Jiping saw his nephew, a man from a 5-man family, felt a warm current in his heart. Tears in the eyes. Stride forward. Slapped him the shoulder. Ningyan is good. Almost died on the spot without taking Xu Qian. Second uncle, you are at the peak of love. Peak? Are we a grade off? Xu Qian naturally said this. It's not unfamiliar at all. However, he was soon attracted by a figure. I actually have such a beautiful and refined sister. Xu Qian was shocked. Su Lingyue is the daughter of Xu Jiping and Li Ru. Is Xu Qian's cousin. In the memory of the original owner, memories of my sister are vague. And because of Li Ru, I kind of hate the house and the black. Not very kind to cousins. There's one exception, though. Xu Qian's cousin, Su Lingyin. The original owner didn't like his cousin. It's not bad for this cousin. Because of the appearance of my sister. It's finally not a fucking inheritance. Su Lingyin ran over with a fart. Find Xu Qian to ask for candy. but he had just come out of his cell. There is no sugar at all. Su Lingying was lost for a while. Xu Qian'an looked at this young girl, who was not very smart. Now it's sure it's inherited from his mother. Reason stiffly skimmed his head. Reluctantly say thank you. Xu Qian'an, who read the facts. A vague memory comes to mind. When he was driven to the courtyard adjacent to Su's house by his aunt. Xu Qian'an was furious. Pointing to the sky, I promise that Qian will definitely get ahead in the future. Don't regret it. It's embarrassing to think about it now. Isn't this an aunt's version of Mo bullying the poor boy? Xu Qian'an is now from the objective point of view of a third party. Look at the relationship between the original owner and the aunt. Actually, it's not all about this aunt. Xu Qian'an practiced martial arts. Eat more than 100 taels of silver every year. And this is equivalent to the savings of ordinary people for 20 or 30 years. It has to be a diligent family. The aunt was resentful. Naturally, it is not surprising. So Xu Qian'an said to his aunt sincerely, "Don't rush to say thank you. I'll talk about it when I get home and eat." Once Li Ru was so angry that he gritted his teeth. Su Pingji's scalp was numb. "Hurry up and go home first. Do you know what social death is? Heaven does not give birth to me for the new year. The wind is like a long night." Xu Qian'an kicked open the door. The family, who had lived for 19 years, went to the empty building. It was very desolate. Crossing the threshold, after staggering a few steps inside, he turned back and closed the door. It can't attract the attention of the government. Readers want face. He walked from the outer courtyard to the inner courtyard. It's like going through a long life. Literacy at the age of 3. Reciting poems at the age of 5. At the age of 10, he was already familiar with the scriptures of the saints. At the age of 14, he entered Yunlu Academy to study. 18-year-old lifter. It's not too much to say that he is talented. His intelligence, his blog posts are intellectual, shaped his proud character. He has always been proud in front of his family. There is a prophet. It's scenic. It is the pillar of the Su family in the future. As a 7-foot man, willing to die a vigorous death. Nor is it a humiliating life. Come to think of it, Xu Qian'an drank the wine jug in his hand, smashed the ground, with a breath of wine, sharpened the ink, and picked up the pen, wrote the pinnacle of his life's farewell poem. Life is a carefree person. Death is a rebellious ghost. Xu Qian'an roared 3 times. Remove the prepared hemp rope, hanging from a ginkgo tree in the inner courtyard. However, heaven is unfair. Heaven does not give birth to me for the new year. The wind is like a long night. Under the ginkgo tree, a scholar standing on a chair. Suddenly, he took off the crown of his hair and threw it away. He shook his head vigorously. With hair disheveled, he swept wildly. He was uninhibited. He put his head in the rope loop. So I saw a family member with a stiff expression and a dull gaze. I promise that in the new year, I will be uninhibited and love freedom all my life. I promise to be talented in the new year. Heaven is unfair. Heaven does not give birth to me for the new year. The wind is like a long night. Xu Qian'an looked at his family, who had returned unexpectedly. I still died 1 step too late. At this moment, the new year, his soul is dead. There are many different cultivation systems in this world. In addition to the martial arts who are known as non-chieftains, there are also warlocks, Confucianism, Buddhism, Taoism, and wizards. Division 600 years ago. The first generation of the founding of the country. Xu Qian'an is also in power. It divides the major systems into flats. Xu Qian'an is the 9th-grade refining sword of the 5-husband system. The second uncle is an 8th-grade peak chi refining sword and a 7th-grade refining divine sword. After that, Xu Qian'an didn't know. On the contrary, it is the warlock system of Xu Qian'an. Xu Qian'an knows a lot, because Xu Qian'an is a cultivation system that belongs exclusively to the Dafeng dynasty. An unusually high profile. Among them, the invention and creation of the six-rank alchemist. Integrate into thousands of households. What grade can be in the future? He didn't know. And Xu Qian'an of the rest of the system also knows the name. Crossing over. But I only learned about the rarity of this world. But you can't blame the original owner. The original owner lived in the capital since he was a child. There is a limit to what is known. However, Xu Qian'an was puzzled. Why is there nothing about the death of the original owner? Or, what about the memories before the coma? As for themselves, after resigning from the police department, chose to go to the sea to do business. Become a diligent social animal. I should be able to afford the mortgage in the future. Afford to pay the bride price. Marry a wife and have children. As long as the next-door neighbor is not surnamed Wang. That's the quiet years. But I never expected it. Had a drink while celebrating with a few friends at the bar. Alcoholism. Alas, I finally got a ticket to the middle class. Turn around and was assigned to the feudal society. There is also a down payment of 600,000 yuan in the bank card. The most tragic thing in the world is that the world is gone. The money is still counting. It's an inheritance for your parents. Just at this time, he suddenly remembered. There are still 120 sentences in the computer hard drive that my wife has not deleted. What it's like to be called a big guy. A girl in a green dress came in at the courtyard gate. She is the aunt's personal maidservant, replaced with a green moth. Master Lang changed you to dinner. The corners of the green moth's eyes and eyebrows were filled with joy. At the age of 10, he was sold into the Xu family to serve his aunt. After the Xu family's suffering, the slave was dismissed. He is worried about his future livelihood. I didn't expect it to be only 5 days. The Xu family turned over. Xu Qian'an was extremely awkward. Don't call me DeLang. Louis wondered. But DeLang is DeLang. Xu wife and was helpless. Forget it, I don't believe in Wu anyway. The two left the courtyard side by side. Enter the Xu mansion. Louis hesitated. Said that the lord and the lady were arguing just now. What's going on? Xu wife and asked. It seems that madam must know. How was the tax and silver case recontracted? As for who did it, the old man couldn't answer. They quarreled as soon as they came and went. Louis whispered, DeLang knows. Xu Qian'an pondered. On the way back from Jiangzhou province, I told the second uncle, tax money is not robbed. Instead, it was transferred. My aunt didn't say anything at the time. It turns out that I have always kept it in my heart. Xu Qian'an just stepped into the threshold, and I heard a crying voice. Xu Linging, the size of a bean ding. 2 small arms were raised behind him. Leaned forward. With his head held high, he unleashed a piercing sonic attack at his mother. The second uncle drank a little wine calmly. Xu Lingwell lowered her head to eat. Xu Xingyan has not yet recovered from the blow of the collapse of the human set. The aunt put her hand on her forehead. A headache. I saw Louis coming. Take it away immediately. Took away Sue's wife and looked at Yume, who was crying in her eyes. What's wrong with Yin Usa? Xiao doubting accused his mother of deceiving people. My mother said that if I could go home, take me to Guiwa Tower. Daddy just said that. Katsura Lu Katsuki Lu is one of the top restaurants in Kyoto. Entering and exiting the street are dignitaries. Civilians and wealthy businessmen are not entertained. As a stupid child who can't remember the names of his brothers and sisters, I can remember Guei Yuelong. Mostly once I went to eat it. It can be seen that this child is not stupid. It's the talent that is being used in the wrong place. You can. I know that the troubles are leading to the east. Even the girl is a tool man. Xiao doubting is the life of the aunt. It was a joke at the time. It's all like that, Annie. Annie sighed. Like-minded people lie to their aunts. My aunt didn't believe it. Xu Qian'an instinctively treated him. And at this time, a small hand pulled Xu Qian's clothes. Big brother took me there. Little doubting grabbed his pants and climbed up. What kind of place is Guiwa Tower? The per capita consumption is 1 tael of silver. Xu Qian'an lifted Xiao, doubting up, gave Louis Zia doubting a scream, and was taken down. The aunt kicked her husband, vaguely crossbowed Xu Qian'an with the corner of his mouth. Second Uncle Xu felt a little embarrassed, glanced at his son, who has always been very curious. It's a pity that Xu Qian'an died socially. Dead people can't speak, only eating. The meals tasted average. The main thing is that there is no dashi. After all, everyone had just come home. Xu wife and ate like chewing wax. She stared at Qingli's sister angrily. Linyu, why do you keep peeking at Brother Wei? Xiao Nizi's face turned red instantly. I just want to know, how did the eldest brother solve the case from the file? There is no such thing as perfect sin, except for coincidences. Any man-made case can find clues. Xu Qian said. Xu Qian'an couldn't help but straighten his waist. Listen carefully. First I traveled through the escort tax silver. The weight of the silver. I noticed a problem with the tax bank. Xu Qian told his reasoning process again. The more Xu Qian'an listened, the brighter his eyes became. It's like getting a doctor's explanation at a private school. His hand at the bottom of the table clenched into a fist. The beautiful 16-year-old sister bowed her head. Hide the look of adoration in your eyes. Su Pingji slapped the table excitedly. A swear word was cursed in slang. I see. I didn't even notice it. But the second aunt ruthlessly dissed her husband. You're a rough blank. I can't even weigh it. What is a pig teammate? Su Zhiping is a good example. Xu Qian asked. When they counted the money, did they bring a guard? Second Uncle Su recalled for a moment. It seems that there is. How do you know that's Su? Qian looked at him resentfully. Why didn't Su Zhiping be mentioned in the confession? It doesn't matter. The Tao is a trivial thing that doesn't matter. What is there to say? Speaking of which, Second Uncle Su scolded and said, it's all because the surnamed Lu handed me a pot of osmanthus nectar at that time. You also know that Second Uncle, my alcohol consumption is unfathomable. So I drank a little greedy. Didn't pay much attention to it. If you don't say anything else, I'll forget it. Xu Qian was almost speechless to death by this teammate. If there is this in the dossier, you will be able to analyze the truth faster. Why bother dying so many brain cells? And at this time, Xu Qian'an, who was listening on the side, hit the nail on the head. So it seems, the surname Lu in Dad's mouth. 9 times out of 10, he is the one who framed his father. Xu Zhiping suddenly realized. But suddenly, he looked at the people in the house. I remembered a bitter past. It's all my fault. Almost hurt the whole family. Su Pingji's voice was full of guilt. Ning, I was in the battle of mountains and seas with your father back then. Diberjan said, to survive together. So together. I survived. But your father died in battle. That's when I thought, to live better, you have to change your life. You can't be cannon fodder anymore. That's why I let you go to school. Chose to let you practice martial arts. In fact, there are still selfish intentions. Auntie said with a roll of her eyes. Yes, my heart is in my nephew's place. Xu Qian instinctively said to the road. Listen to Andy. Jiro is not a pro anymore. The aunt slapped the table angrily. You little bastard. You are right to say such things. Second Uncle Su's scalp was numb. Enough is enough. Lao Tzu finally picked up a life. Why do I have to listen to you arguing? The people bowed their heads to eat. Speaking of the meaning of the mountains and seas, Xu Qian was a little impressed. The world is vast. The Dafeng dynasty dominated the Central Plains. The number of the world is orthodox. Dabong, to the country by force. Confucianism governs the country. In its heyday, all nations come to court. Until now, the national work has lasted for 600 years. 20 years ago, Dafeng joined forces with the countries of the western regions and the north. Fong's grass barbarian. The southern barbarians in the southwest fought a decisive battle at Shanhaiguan. Millions of war clans have been invested by all sides. It took only half a year from the beginning of the war to the end. It was one of the most tragic wars of all time. It is known as the Battle of Mountains and Seas in history. Xu Qian's father died in that war. And at this time, Xiao Doubting, who fled back because of hunger, said a word, almost let my aunt die on the spot. Mother, why do we live in a black house? I can't get enough to eat every day. The crowd was speechless. Xiao Doubting treats the cell as a black house. Su Jiping guiltily said that his father had done something wrong. Little Beanie was hungry. He said, I woke up hungry yesterday. Caught a bug. Then he made a gesture of what it looked like. My aunt was very distressed. You eat spicy cocoa. Little Doubting continued. I heard my mother's stomach growl later. Then I stuffed my mother's mouth. Mother eats fast. Now, this sentence kept echoing in my aunt's head. Stuffed in the mother's mouth. Mother eats fast. Annie squirted directly. Then, there was only a screaming sound left for Xiao Doubting to be beaten. A modern chemical of sodium metal. How far can the ancients go crazy? The tallest building in Dafeng City, the Stargazing Tower. It is the office of Xu Qian'an. The yellow group of girls climbed up with light steps. When passing through the 7th floor, I heard a loud commotion coming from the Dan room. A group of alchemists dressed in white. The quarrel was red-faced. Why failed again? It's such a simple step. I told you. It must be the wrong amount of salt. I think it's water. It's fire. Just now I saw a senior brother want burn the salt. It's too difficult. It's too difficult to evolve the alchemy spell of silver. I won't. The corner of the girl in the yellow dress named Kai Wei twitched. This group of people is still refining fake silver. The tax and silver case was solved. Your Majesty felt that fake silver was extremely powerful. Quite divine. Then ordered Xian to supervise the production of fakes. The sound is so. The alchemists of the heavenly prison started the work of bursting the liver. Day and night devote yourself to the blessings of 996. I've been working since 2 days ago. Repeated defeats and battles. Repeated defeats. At this time, someone found Chu Kaiwei passing by. Chu Kaiwei's heart instantly cooled in half. Then Chu Kaiwei was carried into the alchemy room. Sister Kaiwei, come help me take a look. Is there something wrong with the steps? You are the only one who has succeeded in refining fake silver. Chu Kaiwei looked at the materials on the table. I feel so tired. The refining process of the senior brothers is no problem. This is how he refined fake silver in Su Mansion at the beginning. But afterwards, I privately refined it again. But it failed. Senior brothers, don't be impatient. This is the alchemy that has been passed down since ancient times. Esoteric obscurity. It's not like you just learn it. It must be simple to understand the animal mark to be deeply rooted. I will teach you a mantra. I hope that the senior brother will keep it in mind. A group of alchemists took a listening gesture. Chu Kaiwei is a dantian. Spit out what Xu Qian said in one breath. Various chemical terms. The alchemists heard the clouds and mountains of mist. What a sense of this. Understood every word. But when combined, it's fierce. Chu Kaiwei laughed twice awkwardly. Bandit in the heart. Who knows what the hell it is? Anyway, it was Xu Qian's guy who said it. A senior brother in white side. Wizard, the one who wrote this mantra. He is a genius of alchemy. Sister Kaiwei. Who taught this mantra? Chu Kaiwei said in her heart. Good question, this pot can be thrown out. The man's name was Xu Qian. The royal sword welcomes the 7 green robes. Su Tingji's nephew. Just look for him. I heard that it was a martial artist. The whites were upset. Joke about my dignified Si Tianjian. Talents. To refine Jane, you have to find outsiders. And he's a martial artist. Wouldn't it be a joke to spread the word? It varies according to the system of practice. Several strips were formed. Very interesting chain of contempt. Daomen looks down on Buddhism. Buddhism is contemptuous. Warlocks look down on wizards. The wizard looked down on the ancient master. The ancient master looked down on the warlock again. And then, Dao Buddha, warlock wizard, and Gu master looked down on Wufu together. As for Confucianism, sorry I'm HO. Everybody in this room is garbage. However, it is a pity that modern Confucianism has weakened. The alchemists continued to pester Chu Kaiwei. He squeezed out of the white coat's breast dress. Continue up the stone steps. Actually, he didn't understand either. He just wanted to get out of this place of right and wrong as quickly as possible. The roof of the stargazing tower is not a normal rock roof. Rather, it is an octagonal platform. The dark river Bagua is therefore known as the Bagua Terrace. The edge of the gossip table. An old man in white crouched in front of the desk, holding a wine glass in his hand. The other hand is on the crutches of the head. Seems to be drunk, but not drunk. Looking at the capital below, Huang Kun went when he was a girl. Didn't bother. The master doesn't do the right thing on weekdays. I like to sit on the gossip platform and drink and watch the scenery. This one did not hook Xu Qian'an. There are times when the face is black. Changle County Yannai, a mysterious figure, frightened everyone as if they had seen a ghost in the blue sky and daytime. Someone pointed at Xu Qian'an and said in a trembling voice, "You are a human or a ghost." Li Jianshi noticed Xu Qian's shadow on the ground. My heart was slightly relieved. The tone is calm. What nonsense is there in court? Do ghosts have shadows? Xu Qian'an thought for a moment. Maybe it's the walking dead. Li Jianshi heard this. Eyes rolled. I was ready to faint. Xu Qian'an hurriedly hugged his fists and made a joke. I've seen Master Jianshi. Colleagues, I'm out of prison. Li Jianshi asked what was going on. Xu Qian'an immediately repeated the incident again. It dawned on everyone. Xu Qian'an took out the voucher given by the Yamen of Jingzhou Mansion. After the history of doubts, he said that the point was over. Let's disband. A few acquaintances immediately came up to congratulate him. Survived. There will be blessings. You'll have to treat me. I heard that there is a fence on Lingshui Street. I bought a new batch of Qing officials Ningyan. Come with us tonight. Xu Qian's face darkened. It's okay to have a drink. The sleeping woman still wants me to please. It's too much. Xu Qian'an just wanted to shirk and said that he had no money. Suddenly, I stepped on a hard bump under my feet. Looked down. It was a grain of silver. At this time, Li Jianshi ran back out of breath. When he was a lot more angry, said Lao Wang. The county magistrate asked us to go to the inner hall. Lao Wang Anteo was unlucky. But I still followed Li Jianshi. Xu Qian'an took this opportunity. Quickly pick up shreds. Peace from generation to generation. Xu Qian'an asked the official on the side suspiciously. The face of the head is not very good looking. What happened? The official has no choice but to squat in prison. In the past few days, Kongping has been exposed to a murder case. A businessman with a rather past life died. The county commander was furious. Every day, he caught Wang gambling and scolded him. Xu Qian'an was puzzled, but he was just a dead businessman. There's no need for the county magistrate to be angry. The official said. The merchant had a relationship with someone in the generations. I guess it's the pressure over there. And this year is the year of Gengzi. Gengzi Nian, Xu Qian'an reacted after investigation. After investigation, it is the evaluation system of Dafeng officials. Check every 3 years. Unqualified officials are demoted or even dismissed. For the sake of piety, it is a matter of piety. That's understandable. The other party has a relationship of several lifetimes. If you talk about impeachment, it's basically cool. And then the door was slammed open with a punch. Then I saw the king catching the head scolding and killing people and thieves. Where to go to find it? The officials on the side hurriedly went up to comfort them. But I saw Wang Zhutu sighing repeatedly. It's really a bloody mold today. Not only was he scolded, I also lost a penny. Xu Qian'an heard this. Hide aside and snicker. It turns out that you dropped the money. It's just that at this time, the whole body leaned forward, whispered about the fish whose head should not be touched. The sound is small, but Xu Qian'an returned. It's a real listen. Touching fish means finding a substitute for the dead. Wang Zhudu thought that this was a good idea, so he commanded you to go to the slums on the west side of the city. Pick a few old bastards who are often traitors. Older ones. But at this time, Xu Qian'an grabbed the officer's shoulder and threw it behind him. The murderer who said that he couldn't be cheap for nothing. The rest saw this. Also hurriedly stepped forward to grab Xu Qian'an. Ningyan, I know that your family has just encountered a big disaster. It's inevitable that you will be a little sensitive to this kind of thing. But the head is now scolded by the county lord every day. There's no way around it. But Xu Qian'an didn't pay attention to it at all. Wang Zhu's head slapped violently, stared at Ningyan, and said, "Then you tell me how to check." Xu Qian'an shook off the hand that grabbed his shoulder. Pose in a very handsome posture and say, "Give me the dossier." After Xu wife and took the file, Xu's reasoning began. The deceased's name was Zhang Yurue. He is 51 years old. It is a big dog who lives on Kongping Street. There are thousands of family fortunes. His wife died young. Renewed the title of a Liang family who is 20 years younger than himself. Zhang Yurue has an only son. It was left by his deceased wife. There were no more children, 20 years short. Xu Qian'an complained in his heart that this was an old cow eating tender grass. Pear blossoms press begonias. 4 days ago, Zhang Yurue went to the countryside to collect rent, rushing home left and right. The sleeping wife in the house suddenly heard a scream. Wait for him to go out and check. Zhang Yurue has died in the hospital. The wife also saw a dark shadow go over the wall. Xu wife and asked Sun Ye's attendant if he asked. The official on the side said, there were no suspicious people in the vicinity that night. The capital has 3 walls, although there are night guards in the outer city. But there was no curfew. The gates of the city were not closed at 12 o'clock all night. Merchants only need to report in advance. With your voucher, you can come and go freely. Xu Weifan asked again how much silver had been lost. The official was also very speechless and did not lose it. The deceased had just returned from collecting rent. Collect all the things that come up. It was taxed silver, copper coins, and some rice grain. After the thief kills someone, how could he escape with a large box of money? Xu Qian'an immediately sensed that something was wrong. If I were a thief and stepped on the point, then I will definitely choose to vote the next day. And not today. Wang Zhutu honestly blew on tea and said, then may I ask Xu Catch, who was the murderer? Where is it? Xu Qian'an hurriedly snorted. Don't rush. I saw footprints on the outer wall of Zhang's house in the file. Is that what you deduce from this? The thieves escaped over the wall. The little woman was right. Wang Zhutu still looks like he doesn't care about himself. What's wrong with that? Xu Qian'an asked. Why do you leave footprints? Wang Zhutu was a little impatient, because there is a flower bed next to the wall. When a thief climbs over the wall, he has to pass through, so there will be footprints on the exterior walls. Xu Qian'an said immediately. So, why don't there be footprints in the courtyard on the file? Wang Zhutu was stunned. The officials on the side came out to relieve the siege. It may be that the thief noticed this when he came in. That's why there was no trace. But after the killing, there was a rush to escape. Only then did he leave footprints in a hurry. Xu Weifan closed. This is the first suspicion. If only the thief could jump up outside the wall, over the flower beds, leave no footprints. If you have this light skill, then when he fled, there's no need to put your foot on a wall. Leverage the second. The deceased died from a blow to the back of the head with a blunt object. Why blunt instruments? The murderer did this kind of thing. Swords kill. Wouldn't it be a little more neat? Wang Zhutu took the case. A blunt object hits the back of the head. Kill with one hit. It was indeed murderous. But he didn't understand why he was using a blunt object, and not a sharp weapon. At this time, Xu Qian'an woke him up with a word. Unless the killer didn't have the weapon at his disposal at the time. The last point is one that I am more concerned about. The family of the deceased was brought back to the county government for interrogation. Zhang Yang suddenly fainted because of the expensive wine. The doctor diagnosed him and found out that he was pregnant. The officials on the side heard this. Immediately lamented again and again. Compassion arose. Xu Qian was a little annoyed. If you eat melons, the masses will eat melons well. Can you not interject? Xu Qian coughed twice. Interrupt them. Zhang Yang is 20 years old behind the deceased. It's been 10 years since I married the deceased. How did Du get pregnant at this time? Wang Zhutu was shocked when he heard this. Is there any other way to say this? Xu Qian continued. Maybe the child wasn't dead at all. Wang Zhudo's breathing suddenly became heavy. Mingyan, you make it clear. Xu Qian took a sip of tea to moisten his throat. Maybe it's not a burglary. It's a cheating homicide. Zhang Yang was stealing from her husband behind her back. The adulterer is either an outside man, either the son of the deceased. The two took advantage of the deceased's outings to collect rent. Secret offers on both sides. Who would have expected the deceased to return early? Caught red-handed. The two sides clashed. So the adulterer was furious. Grabbed a vase or other blunt object and killed the deceased. Zhang Yang and the adulterer hurriedly dealt with the scene and dragged the deceased to the courtyard, disguised as a thief to steal from the house. Since the adulterer wants to be preferential, so be sure to step on it in advance. I figured out the rules of the night watchman. This was not met by the soldiers who met the place. If the thief really wants money, I would never have chosen to do it that night. Instead, they would wait for the deceased to bring the money they had rented. Redeem for a silver ticket. Put it in your pocket and take it with you. Publicity is the rhetoric given. It happened to be borrowing the east wind of rent collection. Take your thoughts in the direction of seeking wealth. A room full of catching and witnessing snakes. The murderer can be judged just by looking at the file. Ning Yin, this is not a joke. Don't talk nonsense. Wang Zhutu was still puzzled. Why do you think? It is possible that the adulterer was the son of the deceased. Su's wife took a slow sip of tea. I suspect him for two reasons. Zhang Xian, the son of the deceased, said in his confession. That night he was in his study looking at the accounts. Zhang Yang was awakened by the screams. It shows that the movement is very large. And he was a sober man. But I didn't hear the slightest movement. Is this reasonable? The second point is that if you can't find the thief sneaking in, traces left in the flower beds, then this so-called thief, most likely it doesn't exist. Speculate on this. The suspicion of the deceased son is very great. Wang Zhutu asked, so the footprints on that wall, most likely it was deliberately left to confuse us. Xu Qian nodded and said, let's go directly to the boots of the deceased son. I knew that Wang Zhutu said. Fools also know that they can't leave their footprints. Xu Qian decisively slapped a rainbow fart. It's really a great god to catch it. Then, Wang Zhutu went to explain the case to Xu Xianling. But he took credit for solving the case. It's all on your head. Xu Xianling also directly said what level you are. Don't you know? A bunch of incompetent vanity. He is very shrewd when he fishes for oil and water. When doing business, it's all about incompetent dogs barking. Wang Pudu was so frightened that he was covered in cold sweat. Don't dare to bow anymore. Directly explained everything. Xu Qian is the one who solves the case. After a long time, the Yamen raised the court again. The deceased wife and the deceased son were pressed again. Xu Xianling was shocked with anger. Lang Dao said, how did you two kill Zhang Yurue? Recruit from the truth. Zhang Xian shouted that he was wronged. Why do you say that? How could the grass people kill their biological father? Xu Xianling glared at them and pretended to be stupid for Lao Tzu. Xu Xianling moistened his throat and said that when the incident happened, Zhang Xian, where are you? I'm in the study. Why not share the tower with your wife? The grass people are watching their mother-in-law. There can be witnesses. In the dead of night. Where did the witnesses come from? Xu Qian'an then asked. Zhang Yang's official asked you. You have been married to Zhang Yurui for 10 years. No, where is it? Why is she pregnant again now? Did you and your stepson murder your husband? Zhang Yang collapsed to the ground and shouted wronged. Akio is not in good health. In recent years, it has been conditioned day by day. Finally conceived her husband. How can an adult rely on this to accuse Ming's father of murdering his husband? Xu Qian was also speechless when he watched it from the side. Zhu County order. Judging like you. How is it possible to find out the truth? Xu Xianling slapped the wood. You said that you saw a black shadow kill people and then climbed over the wall and left. So why search the flower beds under the walls today? No footprints were found. There are no traces of trampling of flowers and plants. Zhang Yang was speechless. Zhang Xian on the side said that the county magistrate. How thieves infiltrate. How does the mother in the house know? Your county government can't find out. You can't impose the blame on my mother and son. Xu Qian squirted in the hall when he heard it. The mother and son of the 82-year-old blood god specials. Don't insult those two words, okay? Xu Xianling was also angry. If you pick up the token, you will be sentenced to 2 people. Zhang Xian was also undecided. My lord, this is going to be bent into a trick. The family letter is the Ministry of Etiquette. Aren't adults afraid of impeachment in several lifetimes? Xu Xianling's face suddenly fell. Who are the errant people in the past few lifetimes? A self-proclaimed official. Catch the mad dog who bites whom. If you don't like it, you will be impeached. Thinking of this, Zhu County Ling was also angry. A grass farmer dared to threaten his own official. The cane that comes to the man is rebuked 20. But he understood. Even if Zhang Xian confessed after the fight, the case was referred to the criminal department. It is still possible that he will be close to his relatives in the middle of the house to commit crimes. At that time, Xu Xianling may be detained. A hat that bends into a trick. And at this time, Xu Qian padded behind him. Help me bring a message to Master Xu. Xu Qian, why are you here? Tell Master Xu to suspend the church for the time being. I have a good idea. After a long time, Zhang Yangsher was taken to a separate room and locked up, just as he was falling and restless. The door was opened. Xu Qian came in with a pot of tea. Don't be nervous. Just have a casual chat. You can call me Su Seer. Zhang Yang's ornament is a bit fierce. Horsewhat plum. Xu Qian poured him a cup of tea. Behold that thou shalt wear gold and silver. Zhang Yurui is very good to you. Actually, I think so. At your age. I can't conceive a child for so many years. Most of it is Zhang Yurui's problem. Zhang Yang's grievances were aggrieved. It's all the people's fault. It's the people's women who don't fight for their stomachs. It took so many years to conceive a child. Xu Qian went on to say that Zhang Yurui usually goes to the Qinglu, naturally frequented, from ancient times to the present day. How can the old men and officials not go to the Qinglu? Xu Qian was embarrassed. This Zhang Yang's is really difficult to do. Zhang Yurui is in his 50s. I also often go to the Qinglu. The vault is definitely empty. Now I'm almost sure. The child in your belly belongs to the old king next door. Xu Qian said, I suddenly understand you very well. Zhang Yurui is over 100 years old, and he still lingers in the Qinglu and snubs you. It is also reasonable for you to go out of the wall. But it's not right for you to kill someone. Publicity is a carelessness. The teacup in the hand is dropped. The woman didn't know what the poor man was talking about. I've read the dossier. That Zhang Xian is a full 7 years younger than you. What does this mean? You're an eagle eating chickens. Zhang Yang is pretending that I don't understand. Xu Qian went on to say Zhang Yang. You're the one who keeps the empty room. Loneliness is unbearable. So he seduced the prostitute. doing shameless and unethical things. The night of the incident, you took advantage of Zhang Yurui to go to the countryside to collect rent, and cheated with a prostitute, who knew that Zhang Yurui would return early. Break through the adultery between the two of you. Father and son fight. You smash Zhang Yurui to death from behind with a vase. In order to cover up the crime, you dragged Zhang Yurui's body to the courtyard, disguised as a thief to steal and kill. Zhang Xian deliberately left footprints on the wall to substantiate your claims. Zhang Yang slammed up. I am wronged without me. Xu Qian'an looked at him tremblingly. The hand knew that he had guessed 10, 7, or 8. Don't you wonder why I know so clearly? Zhang Yang was shocked. Could it be that Zhang Xian has already confessed? That's impossible. Xu Qian'an took advantage of the victory to pursue. Do you think that it is impossible for your adulterer to confess his guilt? Because you think you handle it seamlessly. In fact, there are many flaws. Zhang Xian only left footprints on the wall, but there are no footprints left by entering the house. If the thief has a good body, when you escape, you can get your potential out of it. There are no footprints left at all. Second, Zhang Yurui died from a blunt force blow, not anger, according to the law of Dafeng. Those who enter the house without reason. At 8 o'clock, the main family ascended to the World Pavilion to kill the killer. Misconception: what burglar would be unarmed? But Zhang Yurui died on the go. Third, why the county government will insist on it. It was you who killed Zhang Yurui, and not thieves. It's because you made a mistake. Zhang Yurui's body had his feet facing the room. The fatal wound to the back of the head was directed outward. This shows that the murderer moved from behind him, attacked him with a blunt object. The gentleman on the beam saw that the master had returned. Either stand still or retreat, deliberately attacked and killed. He went back empty-handed. How is this possible? Zhang Yang is a clenched hand. This moment was also completely loosened. He never expected that there would be so many flaws. Xu Qian'an then said, "You have nothing to say." Zhang Xian had nothing to say. That's why he confessed you. He also said that you were incorruptible and shameful to seduce him. He didn't want to be entangled with you, but you threatened him with the child in your belly. That night, you also took advantage of the chaos to kill Zhang Yurui. Zhang Xian knows that there are so many flaws. Doomed. He confessed his guilt to the county magistrate. May I offer 500 taels of silver? Unblock relationships. Put all the blame on your head. Let you bear the guilt of murdering your own husband alone. What is Zhang Xian? You know best, people. Zhang Yang couldn't help but be a little flustered. Su Qi sighed with peace of mind. I don't know who Zhang Xian is. I just believe in this kind of unrelated love. Only the relationship of desire will be how unreliable it will be. And Zhang Xian is a rich second generation. He has a family and is young. What awaited him was an ocean of oceans. Why would you sacrifice for a woman? Xu Qian'an went on to say that the county commander was honest and just. He does not believe Zhang Xian's one-sided words. Ordered me to come and inquire. If you confess leniency, the county magistrate promised to absolve you of the capital crime. Zhang Yang seemed to have seen a life-saving straw. I didn't hesitate to recruit it. In fact, Xu Qian'an lied to him. According to the laws of the Great Bong, adultery or murder of a husband, the woman was executed at Lingqi. The adulterer was beheaded for public display. It is impossible to exonerate the death penalty. And Zhang Xian, who saw Zhang Yang's confession, was caught off guard. No more quibbles. Desperate confession. Zhu Xianling looked at the two confessions in his hand, scolded the bastard repeatedly. But he didn't forget to praise Xu Qian'an. Xu Qian'an also hurriedly threw blood. Take a rainbow fart, by the way. They are all taught by adults. The villain is familiar with it. I learned some tricks. Wang Zhutu, who was watching from the sidelines, was a little stunned. That's not right. When this kid first arrived, the character is honest and stubborn. Will only do things with a dull head. It's a real stun blue. How can the case be decided like a god in the blink of an eye? What is Qinglu culture? Today, Xu Qian'an will give you a popular science. Qian'an is the shrine. It is aimed at the common people. The green building is a higher level. The customer base is wealthy businessmen and dignitaries. These two are the equivalent of modern enamel and clubhouse. In Dafeng, when it comes to Qinglu culture, you can't get around the Jiaofeng temple. The beauty in the temple is all a character. There is one more striking feature. That is, they're all the family members of the convicts. Xu Qian'an helped Lao Wang solve the case. When he was happy, he was going to take Xu Qian'an to run to the hook railing. The colleagues around looked at Xu Qian'an with a smile on their faces. Heineheim is going to grow up. But alas, Lao Wang didn't plan to treat him. Rather, to each his own pay. Xu Qian'an suddenly lost interest. Besides, it's broken. Xu Qian'an will not be able to cultivate to the qi refining realm in this life. So he put on a serious face. Say, I'm not that kind of person. It's just that no one birds him. Lao Wang continued to blow the floating incense. It is the oiran of the church division. If it weren't for the fact that there was already Anka that night, I've already had something going on with him. Su's wife suddenly became interested. How much money did you get that night? Lao Wang stretched out 3 fingers. 32 Su wife and snatched the peanuts of a colleague on the side. Stretched out his head in front of the old king. Don't just drink, but where you eat something. I won't get drunk like this. Su's wife is on Sheen in the middle of the belly, and what kind of jokes? 30 taels can buy several little ladies. It's okay to put together a table of mahjong at home. The brain is teased. I went to call Fong Si to sleep with the oiran. Soon after, Su wife and went home alone. The first thing I do when I get home is to keep a journal. Anyway, I'm not a serious person. Today is the first day of the month of Bingshu in the year of Gengzi. That should be the modern year of the rat. October 18th in the solar calendar. The second uncle was right. I gotta change my life. This shit like society is not necessarily a good thing to mix too high. 5 generations of officials who have been rated abound. What kind of person can live a nourishing life? I looked into it. It's the middle class. Richer than ordinary people. It doesn't involve high-level fighting. It doesn't matter if you suffer a small loss on weekdays. People in this class are the most nourishing. In addition, today I found a penny of silver in the bazaar. The weather was cloudy on October 19th. I have to be rich. More reliable than silver in the world is gold. Although the merchant has no status, it can only be said that there are gains and losses. I'm going to spend a few more days. Resigned and was not caught in the yamen. 2 taels of silver a month and a bag of rice. When can I go to Jiaofeng Division to sleep oiran? October 20th, the weather is cloudy. I'm not in a hurry to resign just yet. Let's talk about getting the business up and running. Today I saw a colleague taking a card ticket to blackmail a businessman. I don't feel very comfortable, but I know it's the norm in society. But I can't change anything. In addition, today I found a penny of silver in the yamen. The weather was fine on October 21st. Today, Wang Zhutu took me to play in the hook fence. My impression of the tick bar has changed. He's a place where he listens to music and opera, and where the soul and the flesh blend. I was so saddened. I'm still working on my muscles. The tendons can't be broken. Then I found a penny in the checker. It's just right to pay for listening to music and eating food. Lately it's not shit luck. On October 22th, he listened to the music. On October 23rd, Gao Lan listened to the music. On October 24th, Gao Lan listened to the music. Wang asked me why I was so happy. 4 white prostitution makes me happy. On October 27th, Gao Lan listened to the music. No silver was picked up today. You'll have to pay for it yourself. Phew, the place of the miasma will never come again. October 28th, there is gunpowder in this world. There are also firecrackers. There is also soap. The effect is surprisingly good. In this way, the soap project was also ruined. By the way, I can burn glass. This group of ancient people must not have seen it. October 29th. I didn't expect glass to have it too. I had to find another way. Today, I picked up the second uncle's private money at home. A penny. On October 30th, he listened to the music. October 31st. I found another money-making scheme today. That's improving paper. As long as you can make better paper, I'll be able to make money every day. Eat the best food. Sleep the most beautiful oirin. Think about it. The process of making paper is to know a fart yourself. Today I found a penny in the bazaar. November 3rd, the deposit has been tossed up in the past few days. Borrow money from the second uncle. The second uncle is a poor ghost and has no money. After Xu Qian'an first expressed his disdain. Then he taunted me. In the end, he gave me 5 taels of silver. Heaven does not give birth to me. The New Year's wind is as long as the night. I say so. Xu Qian'an walked away with a red face. Except for some poisonous tongues and tsundere. My cousin is actually pretty good. Erlang, if it weren't for us, we would be worshippers. I'll make you the heroine. Today, November 5th, and the fishers in the yamen went to the tea house to fish. The first time I heard a storyteller tell a story, I suddenly thought, if you put the martial arts novels of later generations, 4 famous books were written, I can make money lying down. I'm such a little clever. Today I picked up another penny. The money to go to the hook bar tomorrow is back again. November 7th, I was so naive. A novel is hundreds of thousands or millions of words. This is what I can write with a brush. Although I can make charcoal. But I can't remember the novel. It's been a decade. Nothing has been accomplished. I'm gonna crack. The man traveled through the decade. But nothing came of it. At the moment, I really realized it. The failures of modern test-oriented education. He knows a little bit about everything. But they're in a state of ignorance. It is impossible to turn what you have learned into money. But that's not the worst part. He discovers the world he is currently in. Corrupt officials are rampant. A little greed can be regarded as a good official. Not to mention the Qing officials. It's rarer than the yellow flower girl in the hook bar. It was cloudy on November 9th. Why hasn't Si Tianjin's Kaiwei girl come to me yet? He didn't want to get the legendary alchemy secrets. That girl's appearance is no worse than Lin Yu's sister. Cute and delicate goose egg face. With my perfect flirting skills, maybe I can catch her up. I also want to be in this indifferent society. Find a love. Come to me. I don't want to fight anymore. On November 10th, I was still not reconciled. Novel plan stream. Produced by to 2 younger sisters. Talked about the general plot of Liang Shambua and Zhu Yingtai. They listened. Lin Yu's eyes were red. But Lin Yi didn't cry. I punched him. She cried. I think that's what she's supposed to be at her age. On November 11th, I drank with Li Dianshi today. Drunk and slightly drunk. She said that the princess of King Jinbei was the first beauty of the dynasty. I asked him how beautiful he was. He couldn't describe it. Because Li Dianshi also listened to what the county commander said. When I got home from work at night, I quietly asked my second uncle. The second uncle's expression was very strange. He went to great lengths to use his rating vocabulary. Described Fei Wang's beauty. I extracted the core elements of nada. This makes me interested in Fei Wang. There was a lot of interest and anticipation. November 12th to this day. Nothing. I have disgraced the motherland. Disgrace to the traverser. November 13th. This is my first month in this world. It was sent down. I'm going to work hard. Take your time in business. On November 14th, Galan listened to music in the courtyard. Xu Qian'an stood under the eaves. He threw a prismatic weapon. He didn't aim at all, but it accurately hit the stake red star 20 paces away. It's not. How clever Xu Qian'an is at throwing hidden weapons. It's his luck. In a month, he picked up a total of 2 or 2,000 pieces of silver. It is equivalent to half a month's salary. The money. It's enough for an ordinary family of 3 to save money for 3 months. But the weirdest thing is, I only picked up 1 penny of silver each time. That's not luck. You don't need to ask Yuan Fong to know that this matter is strange. Xu Qian sighed. System Dad, come out, don't play hide and seek with me. The system ignored him. In the past month, he made countless attempts to wake up the system. The facts tell him, not at all. The system can't think of me like this. I have never won a lottery ticket for 5 yuan since I was a child. Of non-chieftains can one day evolve into the emperor of Europe. But the lifespan of the emperor is extremely short. One thing is for sure. The original owner had no amazing luck at all. He has to have words, and he won't dislike him. We'll offer him as an ancestor. The whole family is no longer fighting. Rely on him to pick up money to get by. This gift of unknown origin, it's inexplicably panicking, is not steady. Su's wife's eyes are calm. Sai can only take one step at a time. The small courtyard where Su's wife lives. Originally, it was lived by an old housekeeper of the Su family. It is separated from the Su family's mansion by a wall. Later, the old housekeeper died. The courtyard was left unused. Later, after the owner and the aunt fell out, in a fit of rage, he moved here. Closed for today. Xu Qian climbed over a 1-foot-high wall. I went to my second uncle's house for breakfast. Mainly to save money. There's that money to go to the tick bar and listen. Isn't he fragrant? In the inner hall, the family is eating breakfast. But suddenly, the aunt saw Xu Qian come in. The good mood just now disappeared all of a sudden. Xu Qi installed it as invisible. Staring at your own breakfast. A martial artist in the alchemy realm, the appetite is much larger than the average person. These breakfasts can only be half full. Xu Qian glanced at Xiao doubting. Kind face and pleasant color road, Kobayashi sound. Is it good to divide the eldest brother with a meat bun? Little Bean, Ding, immediately opened his arms. The baby hen guards the food like a cub. Say no viciously. Don't worry. Big brother won't let you suffer. Xu Qian picked up a meat bun and put it on his plate. Pointing to the 4 meat buns, he said, My meat buns are here for you. Do we all have a share of these 4 meat buns? Su Lingyin pecked at the brain. Xu Qian continued to bewitch. Shouldn't we split it evenly? The official account of Xiao Ding Quan runs. My CPU rang for a while. Then he nodded firmly. Xu Qian's treacherous plan succeeded. Take advantage of the victory and chase after you, 2 buns. Big brother 2 buns. Later, the eldest brother will give you half a fritter. You are not earned. Annie shook her head. How could I have given birth to such a stupid girl as you? I'm so angry with my mother. At this time, Xu Xingyan staggered over. Xu Xingyan resigned himself. Because hanging is not a reflection of death, he is famous. It's even more because of an adult. I didn't have a home and reached the pinnacle of my life. Xu Xingyan followed the path of Confucian practice. Yunlu Academy was a great disciple of a Confucian sage. Founded 1,200 years ago, it is a holy place that scholars all over the world dream of. The transcendent status of Yunlu Academy. It's not just about opening a patriarch. He is a disciple of a saint. The most important point, he is the only remaining academy that can practice Confucianism and Taoism. Xu Xingyan's opening mirror. It belongs to the 9th product of the Confucian system. Can increase memory. 10 lines at a glance. Strengthen learning ability. But it's still the 5 scum of war. These days have been fruitless because of the retreat. Now he has become a puppet that does not possess his soul. What he's good at is strategy. Poetry is his weakness. My aunt was very distressed and did a good job of poetry. People have strengths. The inch is short. Mole pays attention to the gossip of outsiders. Xu Qian suddenly asked to say goodbye. When will you break through the enlightenment? To the 8th grade of self-cultivation. Xu Xingyan shook her head regretfully and had no clue for the time being. The teacher said to be self-conscious. Xu Qian said that you can refer to the opening mirror. How is the opening mirror cultivated? Xu New Year's reminiscences. Recite the saints' scriptures upside down. Use it for yourself. It's the opening mirror. The former takes a lot of time to memorize. The latter relies on a certain amount of understanding. Xu Qian'an was speechless. This is the same as the refining of the martial arts system. It's all been fought for many years. Boil your blood and temper your body. Xu Qian'an asked the words of cultivation. Do you also have to temper your physique? Xu Qian'an pondered the Confucianism of the self-cultivation realm. Fearless. Every word and deed can be convincing. I'm trying to start with the self-cultivation realm. The ability to show up is to reverse the method of cultivation. Did that work out? Xu Qian'an was silent. He's a little annoyed with this big brother now. But Xu Qian'an still stretched his neck curiously. Waiting for the answer, Xu Qian'an pretended not to see it. He turned to his mother and said that something had happened to an elder in the academy. It's a long way to Qingzhou. The students of the academy will see him off tomorrow. Speaking of which, Xu Qian'an said bitterly, I haven't written a send-off poem yet. Su Lingyue said softly, the second brother has no poetic talent. The aunt glared at him. Displeased, your second brother is talented. The way of poetry was just not taken to heart before. Su Pingji dragged his cheeks and said casually, write a few sentences. I think you blurted out that sentence that day. It's very courageous. Xu Qian'an coughed dryly. Stiff digression. That elder is a world-famous Confucian. Extremely good at poetry. The people who saw him off were all talented poets. In addition to the admiration for the elderly, I also have the idea of making connections. If only it could be appreciated by that senior. The benefits are numerous. Xu Qian'an is arrogant. Always make the gentleman's friendship as light as water. The gentleman is not a party. After this crisis, he finally realized the benefits of PY trading. Xu Qian'an is the eldest brother. Very gratifying. Su Pingji said out of place. Your grandfather was like you. Only write articles. No poetry. Annie is not convinced. What do you mean by this? It was my father's fault. In the new year, I can be admitted to the lifting person. It's all the credit of my Li family. For he follows me. You look at the shade of the trees. It's up to you. There is no enlightenment so far. Second Uncle Su was speechless. Xu Qian'an disobeyed his aunt. As you will. It's to say that my Su family is clumsy. Annie instinctively replied that you were the material for studying. I won't go to learn martial arts. Even the words are written crookedly. Mrs. Su, Director In, and Director Chen didn't care about her aunt first. To Su Erlang's. The stinky temper wants to take the initiative to split outside. The status of that scholar should not be low. Jiro's connections are my connections. My connections are still my connections. Gotta help him. Soon he had an idea. Locked a poem. Write poetry, right? Good day. Let my aunt know that all of my Su family are talents. The second uncle was a little embarrassed and choked. Let's not get involved in the affairs of the readers. Xu Qian'an ignored it. Lightly said, thousands of miles of yellow clouds and daylight. Everyone was shocked. The north wind blows geese and snow. Xu Qian'an was stunned for a moment. The picture in my mind is spontaneously born. Don't worry about the road ahead. There is no one to know. No one in the world knows you. Su Erlang was so excited that the chopsticks in his hand fell. He muttered to himself, immersed in the artistic conception and unable to extricate himself. Don't worry about the road ahead. There is no one to know. No one in the world knows you. Big Brother was able to make such a masterpiece. Unexpectedly, I promise that there will also be a time of apparition before people in the new year. Although it is borrowed from the east wind of the eldest brother. Although it is only half a poem, but it's enough. Outside of Kyoto, the students of Mianyang Pavilion saw off Mr. Except for students. There are also two big shots. The great power player Li Mu Baitung. It is known as the first in the world. 5 years ago, he talked about 3 games with Wei Gongshou. They were all defeated and ashamed. slammed the chessboard in a rage. Never play chess again. 6 books on the art of war written by Zhang Shun, a master of war in his early years. To this day, it is still a must-read publication for military attaches and generals. He is the only one of Daebong, the art of war on a par with the Duke of Wei. Yang Gongzi is humble, known as the Xiang layman, the champion of the 14th year of Yuanjing. The following year, he left officialdom gloomily, returned to Yunlu Academy to study, become a world-famous Confucian. Now, 22 years later, he went to Qinzhou to serve as a political envoy. All 3 of them are from Yunlu Academy. Yunlu Academy and Guozijian have a history of grievances. Cloud Road College. It was founded as an academy founded by the great disciples of Confucian sages. Self-proclaimed Confucian orthodoxy. But 200 years ago, because of the true fruit, the incident was completely disgusted by the emperor at the time. And it just came at the right time. A gentleman from Yunlu Academy. Take this opportunity to stand on your own. In order to save the principles of heaven. The idea of destroying people's desires pleased the emperor at that time. With the support of the emperor, the Guozijian was established. As a result, he became a grandmaster. After that, Guozijian replaced Yunlu Academy. It became the main transportation agency for court officials. The debate over Confucian orthodoxy thus lasted for 200 years. Yang Gong went to Qinzhou to guard Yunlu Academy. Expand your territory. Lay the foundation of officialdom. But I want to revive the former glory of the college. It also depends on the young students. Speaking of which, Li Mubai stood up. Look at the students. Is there anyone willing to write a poem song? Song Xiang. Yang Gong was also not stingy. Took out his own jade pendant. As a gift from the leader this time, the students were eager to try. Just such an hour passed. The 3 Confucians only felt that they needed to wash their ears. Since the country has been re-enshrined in the spine of the saints' canon, students all over the world can only stick to the classics. Immerse yourself in words. The poetry of the article is no longer spiritual. This is also the reason why Confucianism began to weaken in modern times. Confucianism at the beginning, invincible in the major systems. However, to the present, Yang Gong was a little disappointed though. But I'm still willing to listen. Is there any other student who can do good things? And then an arrogant voice came to Mr. I have a division. Everyone was embarrassed. I don't understand the situation. Even Zhang Shun poked his head out. Because he heard. This is the voice of his own student Xu Qian'an. Students quit the old. There was a division to see off the Xiang monks. He was deliberately silent until now. He was low-key and humble. I don't want to throw out a good thing too early to embarrass my classmates. He's definitely not trying to be in the limelight. Zhang Shun hurriedly came out, and Su Ci was my student. The art of war is outstanding. It's a manufacturable talent. After talking about the heart, silently added, but he just can't write poetry. Xu Qian'an looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle. Take a deep breath and slowly close your eyes. Thousands of miles of yellow clouds and daylight. The north wind blows geese and snow. The sun is stunning. These 2 sentences are really a bit of a charm. He had an accident this time. It seems to be reused by the imperial court, granting authority. But the forces from the Guozijian will watch him rise to prominence. He will be allowed to lay the foundation for the Egret Academy in the officialdom. This goes to Qingzhou. In fact, the future is uncertain. The road ahead is slim. Suddenly, Su Xinglian opened her arms. The handsome face is reflected in the warm sun. It is as flawless and delicate as jade. He raised his arms and looked directly at the Xiang monk. Spit out the last 2 sentences loudly. Don't worry about the road ahead. There is no one to know. No one in the world knows you. The voice fell. The people present got goosebumps. The 3 great Confucians were shocked at this moment. Hurriedly asked the second half of the sentence. but I haven't seen Xu New Year speak for a long time. The corners of Xu Qian'an's mouth twitched. This is only half a day. The readers present immediately exploded. It's hard to accept such words. How can anyone write poetry and write half of it? Is this still human? Yang Gong calmed down. The smile is deep. It doesn't matter. Bonk is already shocking, although it is a half-K, 7-word poem. But Dafeng's poetry is now weakened. The poem spread. It's sure to be a sensation. It is widely sung by students all over the world. Xu Qian'an's poem has a name. Yang Gong asked Xu Qian'an to remain arrogant. Weisher didn't know how to explain it, only to maintain a lonely posture, so that people don't ask anymore. The poem has not yet been named. The Ziyang monk's smile widened instead. This poem is for me to see me off. Qin nod to Xu Qian'an. Why don't you think of one for you? Li Mubai, a great power, and Zhang Sheng, a master of the art of war. Suddenly I understood his intentions. I felt like I had eaten a lemon in my heart. Then call Mianyang Pavilion to send Yang Gongji's light boat. How to make a new year respectfully. It's all up to the gentleman. The two great Confucians were even more sour. Shameless old thief. Poetry is weak. Now the poem is circulating. It will definitely cause a sensation in Confucianism. It is sung by students all over the world. The reputation of Ziyang lay people will also rise with the tide. The key is what he does. It's equivalent to binding your name to the poem. It can be seen that this old thief is in order to make a name for himself. I don't even want my face. And at this time, Xu New Year coughed. Tell the teacher the truth. Two gentlemen. I didn't do it. It's someone else. Xu Qian'an may never have thought of it in his life. There can be two great Confucians fighting in order to collect themselves. Just as Xu Qian'an said, this poem is not self-authorized. It's when it's a family murder. The three Confucians were taken aback at first. Then Zhang Shun showed a look that was really like this. It's just that all the students are crazy. They all searched to see if this great talent belonged to our academy. The more the discussion ensued, the more intense it became. Where did Uncle Xu C's brother study? Why haven't I heard of this person? Who did your brother learn from? Well, you say. Such teachers. We didn't know anything. The students were in a hurry. Xu Qian'an suddenly realized that he had made a mistake. I was influenced by the rough daddy. I shouldn't have said the rough guy. Everything is inferior. Only reading is high. It can be seen that the reader is proud. Xu Qian'an himself is too. If you know, Xu Qian'an is nothing more than a vulgar tooth. A low-level difference can also write the best 7 laws. Whereas our networking, Xu Qian'an stiffened his head. My brother studied the classics hard at home, not in Yunlu Academy. Nor is he in the country. He has a lackluster personality. There is no dispute, and the people do not like the public. I only wish that the first poor spirit. The students of White Deer Academy were shocked. The heart of friendship swells up. There is such integrity. It's just a role model. Officially, after the end, Ziyang Jusher set off for Qinzhou to invest. There was no accident to Xu Qian'an. Years in this time. Yang Gong poked his head out with a red face. Meaningfully said, such a great talent. The pearl cannot be dusted. Pure words. What do you think? The two Confucians didn't know if they really didn't understand. Still pretending not to understand. Silently sent off the Ziyang monk. Wait for the carriage to go away. Li Mubai suddenly grabbed Xu Qian'an's hand. Take him aside to say goodbye. The old man suddenly became a disciple. Thankfully, nothing happened today. Take me to meet your brother. Zhang Shin flew directly. Li Mubai was born and said goodbye. If you and your brother worship under the old man's seat, it's not a good story. It doesn't matter if you write poetry or not. The main thing is that I don't want to bury such a talent. If in the future, you will come across a poem that will be handed down to the world. For example, my teacher Zhang Shun and the like. Is it also excellent? Li Mubai was displeased, and the art of war was not the mainstream. Scholars must first learn the general theory of experience. Slim the family. Zhang Shun snorted coldly, and Qi Dao is the mainstream. And he's a man who can't afford to lose. In Wei Yuan's hands, there was not a single victory. Shut up, old thief. He wants to be in front of Wei Yuan in front of me. The old man has always cherished talents. The old man of the student has accepted it. Old horseman, do you cherish talents? You're a corpse who covets him. Shameless old thief. Look at the old man's righteousness and shock you to death. As if the old man didn't. The two Confucians quarreled with red faces. I simply started my hand directly. On the other side, Xu Qian'an was competing with second Uncle Su. The two fought back and forth. Second Uncle Su's praise is good. Skills have improved again. Su wife and modestly said that he had won the award. Second Uncle Su couldn't help but sigh and said that he was promoted to the Qi refining realm. In addition to the desire for medicine, there must also be a master of the God refining realm to open the gate of heaven for you. Otherwise, for the rest of your life, you can't step into the Qi refining realm either. I was born and died in the battle of the mountains and seas. Only then did he accumulate his exploits. In exchange for a master in the army, he opened the gate of heaven for me. Step into the refinery. Second Uncle Su sighed. The second year after returning home, there was a new year. Xu Qian'an wiped his sweat. Second Uncle, what do you want to say? You read the second uncle, and you're old. My only wish is to see you marry and have children. I'm worthy of your dead father. Xu Qian'an was speechless. If you want to be promoted, you can't just accumulate credit. There's one more way. That's throwing money. Wu Fan Jing in the narrow sense. Therefore, the imperial court strictly controlled the number of martial artists. Expressly, a master of refining nerves. You shall not open the gates of heaven to anyone in private. If you want to open the door of heaven for the heirs of the family, it needs to be reported to the government. However, the bureaucratic atmosphere of the Dabong today is extremely poor. Corrupt officials are rampant. The majesty of the imperial court was weakening. Even if they dare not openly disobey the law, there are still many masters of the God refining realm. They will look for trading partners on the black market. Xu Qian'an worked hard to make money. It is the idea of replacing meritorious deeds with silver letters. Otherwise, you will not be able to break your body if you have been stuck in the alchemy ban. So what use do I want this iron rod? Since the end of the silver case, the relationship between Xu Qian'an and his family has eased a lot. After a month of getting along, Su Lingyue's perception of her cousin has changed a lot. It's not as estranged as it used to be. Speaking of which, this is the first time he has gone shopping with his big brother. At this time, Xu Qian'an stared at him. Suddenly, I thought of a way to make money. Isn't it possible to improve your clothes? Make women's clothes more beautiful, more seductive. Moment. A lot of epic-making women's clothes flashed through his mind. But he quickly cut off the idea. In this conservative society, if you get these clothes yourself, I guess I'll be dragged to be beheaded. A childish but anxious voice interrupted Xu Qian'an's thoughts. Xiao Doubting pointed to a merchant on the street and said, "Sister, I'm going to eat sugar gourds." The Su family suffered a catastrophe. Running out of money. It's been a month. The son is quite poor. Su Lingyue didn't have copper money on her body to buy sugar gourds for her sister. Xiao Doubting turned his head and called the big country. Su's wife had no choice but to go out with no money. But soon enough, as soon as the words were finished, something is stepped on under your feet. He leaned over and picked it up. Sure enough, it's a penny. Today, the money that Gulan listened to is back again. But this is really unscientific. Every time it happens to be the money that Golan listened to. Could it be that it is providence that I soak hook orchids every day? But let's find a way to break through to the refining wonderland first. I don't know the force value of this world yet. What about the ceiling? In the future, the ability will be strong. Maybe you can figure out the reason for this shit luck. Xu Qian generously bought 3 strings of sugar gourds. Xu Lingyue said in a reserved, soft voice. Thank you, brother. Xu Qian looked at him, sighed in my heart that my sister was really eye-catching. And at this time, a pair of small hands kept dangling in front of Xu Qian. Cauldron, cauldron, is your sugar gourd sweet? Xiao doubting asked Xu Qian vaguely. Broke the careful thinking of the female doll. You want to eat it? Xu Lingying was taken aback. I didn't expect my thoughts to be known by my eldest brother. Big brother is amazing. Xu Qian snorted. Sugar gourds eat too much. Worms will grow in the mouth. Xiao Doubting's little face showed vigilance. What worms will grow? Xu Qian thought for a moment. Give him a description. It's the kind of white fat. Greasy bugs. He just finished speaking. I saw my little sister swallow my saliva. There was a look of anticipation. Xu Qian was convinced. Directly gave him the sugar gourd. At this time, Xiao Doubting was attracted by the scene in front of him. Guiwa Building is a third-class green building. But even if it's a third-class green building, if you go in, you have to pay $2 of silver for the weaving of wine. I'm going to sleep with a girl. According to the low quality, about $5 or $6 is enough. Expensive one? Two. Xu Qian pondered for a moment. Confirm that you are someone who cannot afford to spend. Shadow Ding Shui said loudly. The ladies upstairs in the cauldron are so beautiful. Xu Qian replied. The ladies are in business. Dress modestly, of course. Little Doubting asked curiously. What kind of business? The eyes of the little bean cube selling the bag are bright. Looking up at the green building. Reluctant to go. Xu Lingyue stomped her feet and shouted, Big brother. Shame and resentment. Blame Xu Qian for not discussing this with his younger sister. Xu Qian hurriedly ran away. Shadow told Xu Qian that the eldest brother was so good. Xu Qian kissed softly. Not long after, Xu Qian came back with a roasted fishball. Just at this time, Xu Qian saw 4 or 5 guards surrounding Xu Lingyue. The 16-year-old Qingli girl is like a trapped and lost. While protecting yourself, while trying to break out of the encirclement, he was so anxious that he almost cried. Su Ling saw that her sister was being bullied. I'm too anxious to be at a loss. He ran to Brother Gongzi on his short legs, pointing at his nose and scolding. Brother Gongzi looked at the little bean in front of him, screaming and screaming here. Subconsciously raised the horsewhip in his hand, forcing the horse to raise its arms. Trampled towards Su Lingying. Su Lingyue let out a terrible wail. An evil fire surged in Xu Qian's heart. The moment when the horse's hooves are raised, he pulled out the string of copper plates in his arms. Throw it with all your might. 72 copper plates rubbed out the slope in the air. Sprinkle it to the brocade boy. Brother Child did not react to the oncoming killing move. Instead, it was a protector who reacted. Pounced on Brother Child. Threw him off his horse. A portion of the copper coins were shot in the air. The other part is embedded in the blood of the horse coop. Met Su Lingying. Xiao Doubting, who was stunned in place. Haven't figured out what's going on yet. He sat down on the ground with a limp of his feet. He raised his little hand and wiped it on his face. His hands were stained with the blood that had just jumped out. Xu Qian hurriedly put his hand on Xiao Doubting's hand and refused to let it. He looked at it and hugged Xiao Doubting. Don't be afraid. Big brother is here. It was so thrilling just now. Little Doubting didn't cry. But when I saw the eldest brother coming, immediately let go of all precautions. Wow cried out. Through so long. This is the first time Xu Qian has been angry. Xu Qian rescued Zia Doubting. Immediately said to Su Lingyue, take Lining to the Yamen of Changle County to beat the drum. Just say, I told you to go. Then let the king catch the head, send someone to feed the pigs with the sword. Hundreds of families invite the second uncle. It should be on Huangling Street. Su Lingyue looked at Xu Qian deeply. Said a word, big brother, take care. took Xiaodaoting, and left. And at this time, the boy brother, also recovered from the panic just now, said viciously to Xu Qian'an, "Did you kill me?" Xu Qian'an slowly stood up. "That's right. It's me, but I still want to kill you." Xu Qian'an at this time, unprecedented anger. The horse that Xu Qian'an had just killed. It is a hard-to-buy Shuidi Oolong mark. In the army, it can only be ridden at the rank of deputy general or above. The value is also equivalent to a modern Lamborghini. In ancient times, you could afford to drive a supercar. That's definitely the second generation of top officials. Xu Qian'an also collected his anger. Because he knows it well, only the second generation of officials can be defeated. In my current identity, it's really like there's nowhere to spill it. Xu Qian'an endured his temper. Good words are here. Xu Qian'an met his nephew to protect Xu Pingji. The two of them are my sisters. I don't know where I offended child. Just now, in a hurry, I accidentally killed child's love horse. I will definitely compensate. Brother Gongzi was stunned at first. You said that Xu Pingji lost the photography one. Xu Qian'an breathed a sigh of relief. It was Brother Gongzi's face that suddenly sank. And it shall be measured that you will go and abolish him. Just take a breath. The guards stepped forward one after another. Xu Qian'an looked at this scene, almost burst into foul language. This man is insane. Two guards joined forces. Xu Qian'an dodged sideways. The guards switched hands and flanked back and forth. Xu Qian'an bent down to dodge. Then tap on the soles of your feet. The ground then leaped into the air. Thinking about these two early alchemy stages, I can't help myself. It's just that at this time, the two guards jumped away from one left and one right. The top of Xu Qian'an's head. I don't know when there was one more person. Wait for Xu Qian'an to react. The three of them have formed a three-sided attack. Xu Qian'an is unavoidable. Wound in the abdomen. Before Xu Qian'an could make a move, the man above him threw his hands together and slammed them at him. The next moment, Xu Qian'an swooped into the ground like a cannonball. Brother Gongzi also trembled at this time. Kneel down and kowtow to me happily. Shout twice, Grandpa. Maybe this son is in a good mood. I can spare your life. Xu Qian'an responded loudly. Grandpa's grandma tastes so good. Brother Gongzi did not anger Xu Qian'an. Instead, he lost it. He shouted for me, kill him. Don't leave it in one breath. The guard surrounded again. Xu Qian'an continued to accumulate strength under his feet. The bricks are cracked. I secretly cursed in my heart that it was time for Grandpa to perform. Xu Qian'an rushed out like an envoy. The protector watched Xu Qian'an fly towards him. I haven't had time to make a move. Xu Qian'an came to him. The next moment, Xu Qian'an bumped into him. Several ribs were broken. He never expected that Xu Qian'an would hide his strength. Xu Qian'an is unabated. Go straight to Brother Gongzi. In the frightened face of the other party, he grabbed his neck. Brother Gongzi saw that the situation was not good. I'm planning to move the name of the parent out. Xu Qian'an clenched his fists. Punched the younger brother in the lower abdomen. The skin is formed. Blood spurts out of the mouth under the skin. Xu Qian'an said with a gloomy face, "Dare to bully my sister. It's not that easy." After the calculation, he punched a few more punches. He now has nothing but the sound of killing pigs. Can't say a word. The guards watched in horror, but he didn't dare to step forward to break the siege. Brother Child collapsed to the ground. Xu Qian'an stepped on his face with his foot. If you can't beat it, you can call someone. This has been true since ancient times. Xu Qian'an trampled Brother Gongzi under his feet. The surrounding guardians did not dare to step forward to relieve the siege. But Brother Gongzi's whole body is soft even now. But the mouth is still hard. You know who I am. Do you know who my dad is? You vulgar warrior. Wait until I get back. There is good fruit to eat. Xu Qian'an kicked his scar. All I know is that the puppet is angry too. And the puff was furious. Blood splattering is more than 5 steps. The two sides confronted each other for a moment. A group of people wore dark uniforms. The trapper with the waist ramp is coming soon. The leader is the king catcher. Bastard stuff. Dared to fight in the streets of Changle County. Take it all with me. The catchers took the test one after another. A moment later, Brother Gongzi and his party were pressed to the ground. He hadn't figured out the situation yet. What are you doing with me? Catch the one surnamed Su. This son wants to cut him with 1,000 knives. But the catchers didn't pay any attention to it. Pressed him and sent him to the yamen. Lao Wang turned back to Xu Qian'an and said, Brother, you're in trouble. The identity of the king and the 8 calves is not simple. Have you figured out how to solve it? Xu Qian'an slandered me in the middle of his abdomen, and Hu Hansan had no choice. But let's talk about it first. Let my second uncle know first. Inside the yamen, Zhu Xian said to Brother Gongzi with a charming face, Isn't this Zhou Gongzi? It's good for the waiter to come in. The brocade-clothed boy waved his sleeves suddenly. Pointing at Xu Qian'an, he said viciously that this person was murderous on the street. And, you want to kill me? Take him down quickly. Zhu Xianling can only accompany the smiling face to play around. Then glared angrily, flew up, and kicked Xu Qian'an. Bastard stuff. Even the son-in-law of Lord Zhou, the servant of the household department, dared to fight. You got a few heads to lose. Although Zhu County's order is superficial. But I still side in my heart. Xu Qian'an was confused this time. Zhu Xian turned his head again. Another licking dog grin. Zhou Gongzi, this is the big water washed the Dragon King Temple. It's all my own family. You don't remember the villain. Don't mess with him as a little person. Xu Qian's heart sank. He is actually the son of Tobshiro, in the officialdom of the Daebong dynasty. How much energy is in an official? It's not about grades. It's context and power. There are many first and second grade officials. But a knight who really stands at the pinnacle of power. Just a handful of people. The Shangshu and Shilang of the 6 divisions are among them. Even if you call the second uncle, the sword guard, over, I can't even use it. Hit the son of Tobsquiro. It's really a big deal. Zhou Gongzi was furious and gave me this set. You don't arrest people, do you? Then I'll do it myself. He waved his hand. Command obedience. Arrest this kid for me. He didn't believe it in the county office. Xu Qian'an also dared to resist the murder. Zhu County ordered knew he who dared to commit violence in the county office. Lawfully kill on sight. The officials drew their broken knives and rushed out. Stand in front of the guards who were about to make a move. Zhou Gongzi scolded the surnamed Zhu. You dare to touch my people. Zhu Xianling still licked the dog's smile. Zhou Gongzi, don't get me wrong. This official is an official of the imperial court. Just play by the rules. As he spoke, he took out a complaint. Here's a copy of the book. Bumped into Gongzi Ning and committed murder. Bullying the Liang family woman. The person who bumped into it was Su Lingyue. Zhou Gongzi drank disdainfully and committed murder. Who's hurt, please? Bullying the Liang family woman. If you have the surname Zhu, you go to the street and ask, have I ever moved a finger of this woman? Zhu Xianling took Uncle Song back. Maybe the woman recognized the wrong person. Xu Qian'an was a little panicked. Lao Zhu couldn't figure it out. I had to find a way to save myself. I really can't run away. But it will definitely affect the second uncle's family. Thoughts raced. He saw one of Zhou Gongzi's attendants. Left the county office. And Zhu County's order did not stop it. Or rather, it can't be stopped. Su's wife was relieved and a little colder. Walked up to Lao Wang and said in a low voice, Brother, I'm in danger today. There's something I want to ask you for. Lend me a tael of silver first. Lao Wang took out a handful of broken silver and gave it to him. Xu Qian'an took the broken silver and put it in his pocket. That's the end. You ride to my house as fast as you can. Go to the cupboard next to my bed and pick up a book. A blue book. Remember not to take the wrong one. After you took the book, immediately go to the Four Heavens sword to find a girl named Kai Wei. Help me with a word. Xu Qian is in trouble. Quick help. The Four-Heaven Sword is Xu Qian's only savior at present. He asked Lao Wang to take the blue book to find Kai Wei. Lao Wang hesitated after hearing this. How can a person like himself go to that place in the Four-Heaven Sword? He hurriedly waved his hand and refused. Xu Qian knew that this was the case. Whispered, "If something happens to me, no one will pay you back the money. If you help me do this, the next month's money is all yours." Lao Wang gritted his teeth. But what can be done now? He could only scold and rush out of the county office. At this time, second Uncle Su also arrived. He had just entered the yamen. Zhou Gongzi scolded and pointed at him. "Who are you? Is this kind of place you can mess into? Get out." Second Uncle Su ignored him. On the way here, I understood what the whole thing had happened. At this time, he suppressed his anger and said, "Zhou Gongzi, can it be good at this time?" Zhou Gongzi was taken aback by second Uncle Su's expression. Into his eyes, it was as if I felt the killing intent like Shiji. He remembered what Xu Qian had said on the street. The wild words stuck in his throat couldn't be squeezed out. At this time, a threat came from outside the yamen. "Su Baihu is such a big official. Why don't my son-in-law give up? You still want blood-splattered 5 steps." Second Uncle Su felt the opportunity coming from behind. The person who came was one, a master of refining nerves. "It's a tough deal." Zhou Gongzi was overjoyed. The old man saw the wound on Zhou Gongzi's face. "I was distressed and angry. How could the young master be hurt like this? It's the hands of which damn beasts." The old slave grew up watching the young master. It was a little bit of a wound and a painful tightness. Xu Qian was anxious. The 7th rank refining nerve was 2 grades higher than himself. How else to play? Zhu Xianling coughed. "You are an old man, and you don't dare to interrupt without being salty. The old man is just an old slave in the state capital. Can't afford to be Lord Zhu. This one of you." Zhu Xianling smiled at the old man's words, which was polite. "I think it's all a misunderstanding. Now Kinka is imminent. Everyone should value harmony. What do you think, old-timers?" The old man sneered. "A few insignificant little people. It doesn't affect the old man's jinsha. Besides, our state capital has always been to convince people with virtue. Everything is done according to the rules and regulations of the imperial court." The voice just fell. The sound of chaotic and loud footsteps came from outside the yamen. It took less than a moment. Behind the old man were the guards. The leader was an official wearing a green robe with sleeves and white shoes. "Look around." Lang said that the criminal department was arresting criminals, idle people, and so on, such as a number of involved. Same offense. After speaking, the emperor squeezed out a smile on his face. "This son," the officer asked you where the prisoner was. Zhou Gongzi refers to Xu Qian. "Lock this dog thing up for me." Huang Longzhong waved his hand. The guards rushed forward. "Lock Xu Qian up. Su Pingji is lucky. My nephew is guilty." Wang Longzhong glared angrily at whether he was guilty or not. The official has his own decision. This official is Longzhong of the criminal department. We have always enforced the law impartially. Zhou Gongzi sneered. Watch Xu Qian being pressed and taken away. Su Pingji wanted to step forward to stop him, but he was stopped by Zhu County's order. Zhou Gongzi said to the old man, "I want Xu Qian." The kid died. The old man's eyes were fierce. Gone in a flash. "Child, rest assured, the old slave will do it." Second Uncle Su watched them leave. "Nothing can be done. I can only slap the ground and say that I am going to sue." Zhu Xianling sighed and forgot it. "You won't see the Holy Palace. How can 100 households of the Imperial Sword Guard enter? Besides, you don't have the right to play. The only thing you can do right now is just to find a way to say goodbye. He is the Bureau of Yunlu Academy. Maybe there will be a way. Although Yunlu Academy has been suppressed in officialdom, there is little room for survival. But he who lives in it It's not a powerless reader. It was a group of saint disciples. Not only are they good at dressing people, better at dressing people. At the beginning, Su New Year was able to escape the fate of exile. It relied on the group of people from Yinlu Academy. Sitian Sword is a place full of legends. The contemplation of the superintendent here is like the method of concentration. It is a philosopher's figure who can communicate with the heavenly immortals. The alchemists of the Sitian Sword benefit the people. In people's minds, it is a fairy-like existence, since it is a god. Then where they live, no one dares to come, except for the unlucky ghost of Lao Wang. He wanted to go home several times, but they all endured. And the first floor of the stargazing tower. Inside, gathered the disciples of the 9-rank warlock doctors. Lao Wang just came in, was discovered. Wang Zhutu was a little scared. The monkey rolls a little, stammered and said, "I am the head catcher of the Yamen of Changle County." He subconsciously hugged the blue book in his arms. On the other side, the stargazing building is on the 7th floor. Song Qing is the leader of the 6th-rank alchemists, the 4th disciple of the prison correction. See you in Qian'an. Everyone can claim to be a disciple of the prison to the outside world. But in fact, there are only 6 apprentices who have been taught by the superintendent, known as the 6th son of Qian'an. He specializes in Xu Qian'an's extraction of metals day and night. The alchemy of that. But it all ended in failure. And at this time, an anxious shout interrupted Song Qingshi. "Brother, there was a head catcher who came to find Senior Sister Kai Wei just now." And with the sentence, Xu Qian has difficulty suing. After speaking, he handed the blue book to Song Qing. Song Qing felt that the name Xu Qian was somewhat familiar, but can't remember. Song Qing turned the first page. It's a ridiculous word. Immediately the words were twisted like chicken feet. It's spicy to the eyes. But look at it. And he was on the right track. On the first page of the opening chapter, an oath is exchanged for equal value. The immutable principle of alchemy is Edward Rick. Song Qing began to think. The meaning of these words, Edward Rick. Is it a cipher or some kind of alchemical code? Song Qing took a deep breath, kissed the emotion, and couldn't wait to turn to the next page. The first sentence of the opening chapter is to enter the world of alchemy. This is to step into the realm of alchemy. It's arrogant. Song Qingxin said, "Alchemy has always been taught by word and deed. Gifted and intelligent. You can get started in a year and a half. Talented and dull. Nothing has been accomplished for 30 or 50 years. There has been no serious textbook for 4 days." Song Qing opened the first section and looked at it. Now he was even more shocked. He knew every word in it. What the hell can be combined? He has only one idea now. What is the chemistry mentioned in it? What is physics? What the hell are you looking at? The white-clothed men looked at each other. Don't dare to make a noise to disturb. Poor senior brother Song Qing's unpredictable face. Deeply worried. Could it be that the senior brother is thinking again? What an unacceptable alchemy. Yes, last year he tried to refine the cat's flesh and blood. In this way, if you cut off your head, you can get it back. But he was confined for a month by the supervising teacher. Song Qing was immersed in her own world. Look at it. His eyes lit up, because he saw about how to refine tack silver. Alchemy explained in detail. A key step in refining sleeping silver. The truth is at the back. He couldn't wait. Turned to the next page. But it was a blank slate. Song Qing had the heart to kill at this moment. Wait until he calms down. Remembered what Song Shu said just now. Xu Qian is in trouble. Complaining about wine, he suddenly became enlightened. It's an exchange. He slammed Song Qing to arrest him. The face is incomparably serious. Sweeping everyone's faces, listen to me, junior brothers. This is an opportunity for Qian'an to rise rapidly. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Alchemy may usher in unprecedented glory. On the other side of Kyoto, outside of Kyoto, Xu Qian'an rode back with a group of classmates. But at this time, he saw his father galloping towards him. Second Uncle Xu shouted goodbye. Then he told Xu Qian about being arrested. Xu Qian'an knew the seriousness of the matter. One is not handled well. Xu Qian may be here. He immediately called for help in front of the two carriages. My brother is in trouble. Mr. Qian and Mr. Mu Bai came to the rescue. The two gentlemen heard this. Poke your head out together. Speak in unison. It was the one who wrote Mo Cho, who had no clue about the future. No one in the world knows the genius of the king. Li Mubai scolded loudly. How could this be reasonable? Zhang Sheng was just about to speak. Li Mubai made a statement and said goodbye. Leave your brother's business to me. You and your teacher go back to the academy first. Zhang Sheng snorted coldly, and the idle people waited. Don't be overly eventful. I'll take care of my student's business. Xu Qian'an is a bandit in his heart. Don't quarrel at this time, okay? The teacher, Mr. Mu Bai, and his brother were taken to the criminal department. Sure was afraid to argue. Li Mu Bai heard this. It makes sense. It is important to save yourself a future disciple first. He poked his hand out of the car. The driver who waved the car was lifted by a fresh breeze. Fluttering down on the side of the road. Drive in person. Slowly, this is a good horse. Able to travel thousands of miles a day. Then something amazing happened. The brown horse suddenly neighed excitedly. Color under the skin. Tendons are raised. In the blink of an eye, it was nearly twice as tall as an average horse. Li Mubai drove the carriage away. Zhang Shun snorted coldly. You go down too. He drove the driver to the side of the road. Take the place yourself. Chun Sheng said, this horse is big and strong. It's not just 1,000 miles. There are also 6 legs. The same mutation happened again. He grew 2 new legs. Zhang Shen caught up with Li Mubai's carriage in a moment. Li Mubai was furious and shameless old thief. There are 6 horses. Zhang Shen smiled, and I said yes, yes. Li Mubai gritted his teeth. Then my horse is 8. The horses made a change of voice again. Once again, the overtake was completed in an instant. Zhang Sheng's face was gloomy, and the shameless old thief. You have to rob me of my disciples, right? My carriage is as light as tissue paper. Fly with the wind. Li Mubai's eyes widened. This old thief didn't want to die. On the flying car, Zhang Sheng turned around. Loud provocation, shameless old thief. Come here. Li Mubai was angry, and his uncle was bearable. And he can't bear it. He is a piece of paper. My carriage will ride the clouds. Then the wheel clouds rose. The next moment went straight to the sky. Su Pingji looked at this scene, dumbfounded, until the 2 carriages disappeared into the sky. Swallowed his throat. Scholars can brag about that point 13. Xu Qian'an looked at the sky. I yearn for it. Muttered that this is not bragging. These are the 5 virtues of Confucianism. He has another name. Drunken taunts from the governor. Such as the law is messed with. In the prison of the penal department. Su Qian with shackles. With his back against the cold wall. According to the information previously read from the case drugstore. There are countless examples of the yamen in the capital bullying men and women. These things can't be passed on to the emperor Lauer at all. It was pressed down. But this is the period of Jingsha. Aren't you afraid of political opponents? Su Qian snorted. They wanted to kill me quickly. And the life of the whole family. Forced the second uncle to endure the humiliation. In this way, the sequelae are smoothed out. Su Qian realized that he had thought about one thing wrong. The middle class is certainly well off. But it only takes one time to mess with the big guys. There is no return. I want to live like a human being. You have to have power and power yourself. At this time, there was a knock on the prison door. The jailer disdainfully said that he would die. Then I made a neck-wiping motion. It's time for a severed head. Do not perform yamen etiquette. The criminal department Shangshu was looking at the file. But suddenly a strange wind whistled. The case files were thrown in his face. When he takes it down, it was found that there were 2 more carriages outside the yamen. The strange thing is that the sparrows are lying on the ground. The people who came were Zhang Shun and Li Mubai. Sun Shangshu hurriedly came out to greet him. Pure respect for a few years, brother. What are you 2 doing in my criminal department? Zhang Shun arched his hand. Chen Qingdao's criminal department arrested one of my disciples today. Teach Xu Qian'an to bother Sun Shangshu to release people. Sun Shangshu's cold sweat came out. Arrested the students of Yunlu Academy. In officialdom, though, Guozijian suppressed Yunlu Academy so much that he couldn't raise his head. Because Guozijian is an academy run by the imperial court. But Yunlu Academy has the Confucian cultivation system. It's not a soft persimmon that people can handle arbitrarily. This group of old things in Yunlu Academy is the most short, unless the disciples in their mouths are really traitors. Otherwise, who would dare to take the initiative to find fault with the people in the criminal department? Didn't wait for Sun Shangshu to say anything. An errand officer ran over in a panic. Said loudly, "Lord Shangshu." Outside, there came a group of white-clothed heavenly swords. "Break into the yamen." "We can't stop it." The voice just fell. Song Qin led someone to break in. "Lord Shangshu, let's do it. Ask the Ministry of Punishment for a person." "Hear this." Sun Shangshu's heart sank. "Who is Chen Sheng?" "Xu Qian'an was just arrested by the criminal department today for no reason." Sun Shangshu broke out in a cold sweat. "It's Xu Qian'an again. What kind of god is this man?" The saint attracted the great Confucianism of Yunlu Academy. Why, even the disciples of the traitorous government came. No one in Daebong wants to offend the traitorous government. Even the self-proclaimed Confucian orthodoxy Yunlu Academy was ridiculed by the traitorous government who loves to drink and mess with the law. I can only pinch my nose and admit it. The onlookers exchanged heads and ears. "What's going on? Who is Xu Qian'an? You're lonely. Do you know about the tax and silver case?" It was Xu Qian'an who solved the case. "But this man is just a martial artist. How can it be related to Confucianism and Si Tianjian? Odd. There is no such person as Xu Qian'an in the arrest documents." Sun Shangshu's face sank. "Whoever goes to catch the people." The retreater's eyes rolled, pointing to a green-robed man in the crowd. "It's Huang Longzhong." Huang Longzhong is like falling into an ice cellar. "Lord Shangshu, it happened suddenly. I didn't have time to get the papers." "This is Zhou Gongzi sent someone to submit." Song Shu said that some thieves beat him in the street. He also said that he would make his blood splash 5 steps. Song Qin kept staring at him with hope. "See if he's lying." Huang Longzhong continued, "Mainly because this person is a martial artist." At the same time, he met the nephew who did not promise peace. Have the ability to abscond in fear of crime. The lowly decided to take the people down first. Li Mubai stepped forward. Facing Huang Longzhong, Chen said that the sage should be a gentleman. The next moment, Huang Longzhong only felt that his heart was beating violently. Blood rushed to the skin, ashamed of lying. He hated lying himself. The spirit is fiercely protesting. Protest against his despicable deeds. The mouth was angry and out of his will. Uncontrolled openings to speak. Zhou Gongzi wants to kill Xu Qian'an. Let him die in the prison of the Ministry of Punishment. To vent the hatred in my heart. I want to sell Zhou Gongzi a favor. In a hurry, he collapsed to the ground, sweat on his forehead. After saying that, I felt much more comfortable. Sun Shangshu's face was completely gloomy. Coldly said to give me orders. Go down and let the people go. On the other side, interrogation room, in front of Xu Qian'an. There is a book of testimony that distorts the facts. If he did sign it, the lightest punishment is exile. But the surname Zhou casually operates. It is possible to sentence yourself to cut the vegetable market and behead the capital. Zhou Gong stretched out 2 fingers. said to give you two choices. The first is a plea of guilt. The second is to try all the torture instruments here. Then he pleaded guilty and drew a prisoner. Su Qi's peace of mind is a spirit. This is clearly going to kill yourself. Zhou looked at his eyes. Is it really scary? Uncle Chun, what if he has to splatter blood for another 5 steps? The old man of the star beast sneered and said with a smile, Young master, rest assured. It's just an ant. The old slave can be slapped to death with a single slap. Xu Qian'an gritted his teeth. It's not good to go on like this. And why hasn't Chu Kaiwei come yet? Did Lao Wang's bastard go to see Tianjin? If it went, that book I wrote was very tempting. How could he not be impressed when he saw it? Zhou Li enjoyed Xu Qian'an's expression now. I heard that you were raised by your second uncle Su Pingji since you were a child. The relationship must be good. I have reason to be skeptical. This matter was planned by you and your second uncle. The green tendons of Xu Qian'an's forehead protruded. It's not enough for this bastard to kill himself. At this time, the cell door was opened. A cold and harmonious voice came, and this was the Ministry of Punishment. Zhou Gongzi wanted to try the prisoner. Please go back to the household department for review. Zhou Li glared angrily at the blue-robed official. Who are you? Dare to disturb this son? The green-robed official ignored it. The secretary of the Ministry of Punishment ordered the immediate release. Xu Qian'an breathed a sigh of relief when he heard this. Finally waited for myself. The officer of the criminal department compound released the handcuffs to Xu Qian'an. Xu Qian'an stretched. You should be glad you didn't torture me. Reintroduce yourself. I am a new disciple of the prison administration. Zhou Li and the old man's faces changed greatly. How is this possible, if he is really a disciple of the superintendent? But the tax and silver case will not affect the Su family at all. However, in the tax and silver case, he successfully refined a fake silver jian. Face this alchemical genius. It is not impossible to make an exception and accept apprentices. He looked at the white-clothed old man in Si Tianjin who filled the courtyard. It seems that there is already an answer in mind. Su Weifan looked around. I found that Akima Pingchuan was not there. Could it be that something is tangled up? Please ask the same door to save yourself. Xu Qian'an smiled. Bow your hand and bow down. Xu Qian'an had met several senior brothers. Song Qing was a little confused. What is senior brother? But he quickly reacted. The blue book was written by you. Xu Qian'an nodded, glancing to the side. This is not the place to talk. And so on left the criminal department. What does the senior brother want to ask? Ning Yin knew everything. There is no end to the words. Zhou Li watched this scene. Some panic. Whispered to Master Sun. Why did Si Tianjin's people come? Sun Shangshu is not disgusted. But they only came directly to me for someone. Zhou Li's soles of her feet were soft. The old man pointed to the 2 big Confucians next to him and said, what about them? Sun Shangshu still had the same tone. They also came to ask for people. The 2 were struck by lightning. Is this next week's house going to be finished? What kind of monster did you offend? At this time, Li Mubai opened his mouth and said, You are Xu Qian'an. Zhang Shun untied him, said that I was the old division commander. Don't worry about the road ahead. There is no one to know. No one in the world knows you. But you wrote it. Xu Qian'an bowed. The junior table seat made the 2 seniors smile. Song Qin urged in the back. He really didn't want to stay any longer. It's over. Come back with me for 4 days. See all? Watch Xu Qian'an leave. Zhou Li breathed a sigh of relief. The monster is finally gone. But at this time, Xu Qian'an stopped, turned his head and glared at the 2 Zhou families. There's one more thing I haven't dealt with. In ancient societies, strength is the only truth. Xu Qian'an looked back expressionlessly. Zhou Li was taken aback. Hurriedly grabbed Sun Shangshu, begged him to pull him along. But Sun Shangshu turned his head. With a wave of his sleeves. Shake him off. Xu Qian'an took the shackles in the hands of the servants on the side, playing without saying a word. Then shake it hard. It smashed directly on Zhou Li's head, blossomed in an instant. The blood sword dance step that Xu Qian'an said really appeared. Zhou Li looked at the old man when she was dying. Uncle Chen made a difficult voice in his mouth. Save me, and then fall to the ground. The old man's patience seems to have reached its limit. The veins on his forehead flare. Xu Qian'an looked at the old man expressionlessly. Shoot me to death. In front of my brothers and all the adults in the criminal department. In front of the two great Confucians. Slap me to death, an ant. Hurry up, the old man froze there. The anger on his face faded like a tidal wave. The body staggered back a few steps. Xu Qian'an also confirmed the thoughts in his heart at this moment. Sure enough, only the second generation of officials can deal with the second generation of officials. Xu Qian'an basks in the early winter sun. I feel like I've been given a new lease of life. And at this time, Su Erlang and Uncle Su rode fast horses and came late. Xu Qian'an bumped into them as soon as he came out of the yamen. Xu Qian'an happily shouted to the second uncle. Su Pingji saw that he was fine. I also completely settled down. It's just that he wonders, how did the people of the four heavenly swords come? Su Xingyan thanked the teacher. Thank you, Mr. Mubai. At this time, Zhang Xin regretted that your eldest brother is so talented. Why did you become a servant? Su Xingyan glanced at brother Su Qian next to him. What do you think? Just the next moment, Su Qian's hand was held by Li Mubai. You read it. Are you interested in coming to Yunlu Academy to practice Confucianism? Zhang Shun was sour. Was preempted by a shameless old thief. Ning Yin, who was still stinky and shameless, was called. I knew each other for less than 2/4 of an hour. Zhang Sheng untied him. Farewell to the old, and bowed down to me. Wouldn't it be better for you to be together? Seeing that Su Qian didn't agree, the two grabbed Su Qian's hand like this and didn't let go. What's going on? Su Qian glanced at his cousin. The latter turned away. Ignore the massage of Su's wife. Unclear situation. Don't dare to agree. The two seniors love Ming Yin. Struck with awe. Although I practice martial arts. But there is no end to learning. And the younger generation does have a talent for reading. If I go to the college, the latecomer will surely prevail. More than Uncle Tsu. Uncle Su Ci listened, snorted coldly. The tone is proud, and the teacher and Mr. Mubai are proud. It's your poetry that I love. For example, Nianyang Pavilion sent Yang Gongji a light boat. After speaking, Erlang's face froze. I didn't dare to go to see the teacher and Li Mubai. Nianyang Pavilion sent Yang Gong's light boat. Yang Gong turned out to be like this. Su Qian heard this. I know it in my heart. Care about Chenin. I understood the intentions of the two great Confucians. The road to officialdom in Yunlu Academy is extremely difficult. You can't be a big official. Naturally, there is no end to the history books. At this time, it highlights the role of Su Qian's poetry. Oops, old man. It was so bad that the corners of Su Qian's mouth twitched. Some are not convinced, because they take in apprentices. It's not that he shows talent and strong character. It's a teacher of Zen him. The two big ones have rough skin and thick meat. The smile remains the same. Su wife and hurriedly thanked the two gentlemen for their love. I'd rather focus on learning. It's disrespectful. Recently, I had a sudden inspiration. A few good poems were brewed. I've been waiting for this now. Then I went to Yunlu Academy to visit the two teachers. The minds of the two great Confucians immediately became active. How can this student become more and more cute the more he looks at it? Case. Then the two of us will be waiting for you in Yunlu Academy. Zhang Xin finished speaking. I took a deep look at Su New Year. It's been a year since you got the hang of it. Unable to break through to the realm of self-cultivation for a long time. Go home and transcribe the sayings of the saint 300 times. Give it to me in 10 years. Xu New Year was like a lightning strike. Xu Qian did not forget to fall into the well on the side. Zhang Xin turned around. The old man stepped out step by step, disappeared directly. Xu Qian was dumbfounded. What about the seniors? Li Mubai gritted his teeth. This old thief deliberately showed off in front of my apprentice. He drew a circle on his toes in the deep state, glanced at Xu Qian. Chen Dao said that the old man did not belong to this place within 3 inches. It belongs to the city gate. With that, his figure disappeared suddenly. Xu Qian's eyes widened. What is the realm of these 2 great Confucians? Xu New Year has not yet broken free from the despair of 300 quotes of the saint. Second Uncle Xu heard that the new year was the 5 virtues of Confucianism. Xu Qian was shocked. Is it as long as I blow the cowhide big enough? There's nothing in the world that I can't do. What could make Xu Qian's face ripple? Of course, it's the big brother's sable cicada on the waist. Confucianism has no moral behavior that regulates people's behavior. Manipulating others with words. The core ability of this realm. It is a preliminary grasp of the true meaning of words and words. It can tamper with the laws of things to a certain extent. Therefore, he also has a name, filial piety. Messing with the law. Su Pingji said enviously that all major systems have divine will. Only the martial artist is brave and ruthless. That's why Takefu is a rough fetish. Xu Qian looked at Xu Xian'an with burning eyes. Brother treats you well on weekdays. Xu Xian'an was speechless. Can you touch your conscience and say it again? Xu Qian doesn't care about this. It's still a yearning face. Said Big Brother. There's one thing to ask for. If one day you reach the realm of virtue, I need you to tell me where his Big Brother's Diao. Oh, Big Brother Sable Cicada is on the waist. Su Erlang can't stand this lowly cousin anymore. Just brush your sleeves and leave. Song Qing, who had been watching from the side. It's also a little unbearable. Cough twice. Can you go if you interrupt the road? The Stargazing Tower is the tallest building in Beijing. The manpower and material resources involved in its construction. It is 1/3 of the annual tax revenue of the Daebong dynasty. He was an alchemist by the Tian sword. It was jointly designed and built by the Ministry of Industry of the Imperial Court. It took 12 years. The only one in the world. Anyone who sees it for the first time, anyone who goes to the Stargazing Tower will think. It's a majestic miracle. But Song Qing was puzzled. Xu Qian obviously saw Guanxinglo for the first time. Why is it so plain? Because of what? Xu Qian has never seen any high-rise buildings in modern times. Still, he explained, my second uncle often said, I've had a calm mind since I was a child. The landslide is in front of it and the face does not change color. Maybe that's talent. On the 7th floor of the Stargazing building, met Chu Kaiwei, who had a one-sided relationship. Her shore was filled with food. Why are you causing trouble again? Chu Kaiwei asked with puffed cheeks. Xu Qian picked up a string of fish balls in his hand. I just wanted to answer. Chu Kaiwei glared at him. Then the little hand slapped his pig's trotters open. The big eyes were full of vigilance. You don't think you have eaten yet? Senior brother Song, take him back. Wait until you're done eating. Xu Qian seemed to see it. Su Lingying's appearance when he grows up. At this time, Chu Kaiwei opened her mouth and said that the tax and silver case was over. Do you know who contracted your second uncle's tax money? Xu Qian shook his head. The exchange of tax silver was the Senu Lusho branch of the Imperial Sword Guard. There is also the head of the household is Zheng Xing. I heard that Tobe is Lang. Zhou Xianping is their backer. Xu Qian almost couldn't help but burst into foul language. It was as if an electric current was running through my mind. He figured out a lot of things in an instant. No wonder Zhou Li heard her name, determined to put me to death. Because I solved the tax money case. Ruined his Lao, Su's big thing. So he wanted to retaliate. Maybe it's happening today. Originally, he had been planning for a long time. Zhou Shilang's mansion is in the inner city. The two places are far apart. The surname Zhou walked around and slipped to the vicinity of Su's mansion, unless he deliberately wandered around the Su mansion. The surname Zhou checked me. Then how could you not know Lin Yu's appearance? Flirting with a woman from a good family is acting. The real purpose is to find fault. Take advantage of this to kill the head, though I have seen that it is near. But the whole death is a trivial example. It's hard to do it. It can also shake the dignified 3-grade Tobe squire. It seems that from the day he solved the tax and silver case, I've already offended the Tobe squire. I'm still thinking about staying away from Yellow Springs. Be a rich man with a group of wives and concubines. Lived a boring and unpretentious life. If it weren't for Erlang, he would just be going to send it to the elders of the academy. If it weren't for my sudden whim the other day, I wrote a little chemistry from memory. You may have been cold. I don't even understand the real reason why I was killed. It's just that it provoked the second generation. A succession of coincidences superimposed. It's weird. Su Qi's peace of mind is luck. My luck really helped. Xu Qian's heart suddenly moved. Miss Kaiwei, will you forget? Chu Kaiwei swallowed the food in her mouth. Said I would. The 8-rank warlock is called Wangqi Master. The vigor technique is the most basic ability of our warlocks. Follow-up miracle doctors, all built on the basis of vigor. But you know why the warlock's 9 pins are not Wangqi Master. Is it a healer? Xu Qian turned his head to the side. He was not interested in this issue, but it was still a compliment. It's not you warlocks who ask. They all have a heart to save lives. Chu Kaiwei straightened her small waist, put on a serious look. I seem to enjoy being a teacher. It is said that everything in the world has a Qi number. Among them, people are the most. The 8 hardships, 7 emotions, and 6 desires in life are all Qi numbers. Healers save lives. It is inevitable that it will be contaminated with birth, old age, sickness, and death. In time, a pair of bronze that can see through the number of Qi will be born. Xu Qian likes this kind of know-it-all. A girl who speaks endlessly. Asked, can you see my Qi number? Chu Kaiwei stared at half of it. When you open your eyes again, there was a breath of fresh air in his dark eyes. Occupy the pupil instantly. Even with Xu Qian Lingjue, he was touched. It feels like a blind stab in the back. I feel very uncomfortable all over. A moment later, Chu Kaiwei slowly closed her eyes. Say your gas count. Pale red mixed with black gas. Xu Qian hurriedly asked what it meant. The red color means that you are eating official food. But the color is light. It means that you are the underlying void force. Black gas is a symbol of bad luck. I think you know that. Xu Qian frowned. Temptation, is there no other color? For example, the color that symbolizes the child of destiny. Chu Kaiwei hurriedly interrupted him. Just say these things before me. If it is listened to by someone who cares, it is an inexhaustible sin. Except for the emperor. No one dares to call themselves children of destiny. Xu Qian didn't bother to care. If not, there is no one. Then he picked up something with ease. Chu Kaiwei had a clue in her heart. Slapped Xu Qian's pig's trotters away again, and wanted to steal it again. I'll give it to you when I'm full. Xu Qian was furious. You've wiped out half of this table. Is your belly a black hole? But suddenly Xu Qian remembered something. He opened his mouth and asked how the Tobe Squire was doing. The household department gave the waiter a few days ago the bullet to impeach Zhou Shilang, pressed down by His Majesty. As for the two who exchanged sleeping silver, they committed suicide in fear of sin. Other words, the evidence is gone. But these years, who does the emperor really want to kill? In fact, there is no need for evidence. Xu Qian took this opportunity to inquire about the court. So he grabbed Chu Kaiwei and began to ask questions. It's just that Chu Kaiwei was not very interested in the affairs of the court, so not much is known. Soon he was annoyed by Xu Qian's question. Oops, you're so annoying. Our celestial eunuch doesn't ask about the court. Xu Qian'an said himself. This? It seems to have hit his self-esteem as a teacher. Hurriedly changed the topic. How much silver was on this table? I gave the shop 4 taels of silver. Give me back a couple or $3. 60 copper plates. Chu Kaiwei said distressedly. How much did I spend? Xu Qian'an pondered for a moment. I found myself not able to count. Chu Kaiwei happily handed him a pastry. Because it doesn't count either. I feel that Xu Qian'an is the same kind. I can't help but feel a lot more kind. Xu Qian'an tasted it. Commented that your dish tastes average. Chu Kaiwei was a little unhappy. This is a home for intoxication. It's the best restaurant in the south of the city. But next Xu Qian'an's words. Suddenly it made him feel unfragrant. I've had better tastes. Come to my house when you have time. I'll make something delicious for you. As a professional foodie. As soon as I hear about delicious food, I like to flow haha. Not long after, Xu Qian'an and Chu Kaiwei went to the alchemy room. A group of white-clothed people gathered in front of the lab equipment, staring at Song Qing's operation. Song Qing showed a solemn expression. Countless times in the past. It's all stuck in the next link. Song Qing subconsciously looked at Xu Qian'an beside him, including the big-eyed cute girl Chu Kaiwei. The other white-clothed men all looked at Su Dalong. Su Dalong nodded expressionlessly. Song Qing was settled. Snapped his fingers. Thunder and lightning are released. Proceed to the final step of extracting metal. Suddenly, Xu Qian'an shouted. Stop breathing. Everyone did not hesitate when they heard this. Synchronized the action instantly. The next moment, a scene that shocked Si Tianjian Bai happened. Irregular silvery white lumps are formed in compassion. It's like silver. Lumpy edges. It is a fine salt that has not been completely transformed by adhesion. They inexplicably succeeded. It's just that Song Qing is even more confused. I haven't changed anything. It used to be like this. He hurriedly asked Xu Qian'an if he knew the reason. Xu Qian'an pondered. Sure enough, it's because of my own shit luck. Last time, because I was by Chu Tsaiwei's side. She's also a one-time job. Train out the metal. But it was impossible to tell Song Qing about this. They then pretended to smile deeply. That's not what I should have asked. A full-fledged alchemist. You should learn to think for yourself. I think you should be able to realize where the crux of the problem lies. Song Qing was shocked when he heard this. The crux of the matter. Song Qing's brain was running rapidly, combined with the experience of several previous failures. And this success analysis. None of the previous steps have changed. What really changes should be the last step. Song Qing said excitedly. I get it. Everyone hurriedly asked. Song Qing went on to say the intensity of the lightning strike. After speaking, he looked at Xu Qian'an with a verifying gaze. Xu Qian'an smiled and nodded. I named him Voltage. Song Qing was stunned. Again, a word that has never been heard before. Electricity he knew, but voltage is something. What was it like to give chemistry lessons to ancient people? Xu Qian'an explained it to them. Voltage is something, but everyone clearly looks like who I am. Su's wife is tired with peace of mind. Let's put it another way. He picked up a teacup. Pour the water inside. Electricity is the same as water. He'll flow towards the drop. It's okay to pour this cup on anyone. But if it's a hanging waterfall, people are in it, will be hit by the impact of the water, and the bones will be broken. Even lost his life. The same goes for electricity. I call this phenomenon voltage. The white-clothed men suddenly brightened. A young man dressed in white. His face was full of curiosity. Asked, this is also written in that alchemy book. Xu Qian Qingdao is right. That alchemy book is the only one I've seen and studied. I asked someone to send the contents of Si Tianjian's notes. It's just a drop in the ocean. That ancient alchemical book not only records knowledge. There are also many unheard of alchemy. And I decided to share the alchemy cheats with Si Tianjian. The white-clothed people were on the spot, boiling excited. but it's not free. Xu Qian'an talked eloquently. Never forget, the principle of alchemy is equivalent exchange. Song Qing nodded. Agree with what Su Ningyan said. On behalf of the disciples, asked how much silver you want. Xu Qian'an said in a deep voice, vulgar. Alchemy is not measurable by silver? He silently added in his heart. Those who don't need money are the most expensive. Changle County Yaniai. Su Linghua pinched her handkerchief, sobbing and choking. The little beauty who looked at the pear blossoms with the rain. The fast workers of the fast shift are about to break their hearts. Unexpectedly, Su Ningyan actually has such a pretty and beautiful sister. Lao Wang hurriedly stepped forward to comfort Miss Su. The Lord of the 100 households will find a way to rescue Ningyan. Everyone also shouted comfort. Su Linghua was a little surprised. Looking at the angry expressions of the fast hands, it didn't seem to do anything. It seems that the eldest brother has a good relationship with his colleagues. Lao Wang seemed to see her surprise. So he smiled, said that Ning Yin is a person worthy of respect. Su Linghua was stunned. Then he whispered and whispered that the king of the Dao would catch his head. Can you tell me about my eldest brother? Wang Zhutu was silent for a moment. Unconsciously lowered his voice, actually. People like us, there is nothing clean under the hands. If you don't shoot at ordinary people, you have a conscience. As for those rich businessmen, isn't it a matter of course to get oil and water from them? But your eldest brother won't. Civilians too. Wealthy businessmen. He never extorts money. A while ago, I considered that the Su family was in a big disaster. I decided to take him for a fortune. He smiled and agreed. Afterwards, I gave him 5 pieces of silver, but he quietly returned it to others later. Let's say he's sensible. Don't you understand the truth that when the water is clear, there are no fish? But to say that he is not sensible. But he's very good at getting things done. I get along well with everyone. People are slippery, so something happened to him. Everyone is uncomfortable. Su Linghua listened stupidly. The image of the eldest brother in his mind has become tall again. It's bright and majestic. He has admired Su Qian'an since he was a child. Because everything is inferior. Only reading is high. Because his mother always instilled in him. The second brother is the only seed of the Su family's reading. It is the pillar of the future. This admiration reached the end of this fall. Su Qian'an reached the peak after being promoted in the annual examination. But the ensuing tax and silver case landed the whole family in jail. In times of despair and helplessness, Brother Shi is in a desperate situation. It has opened up a way for the whole family to live. And what has happened recently? Only then did he realize what a kin name this big brother was. At this moment, a man came in from outside the door. Su Linghua hurriedly stood up. The people are Uncle Su and Su Qian'an. Zhu Xianling also came later. He looked at Su Qian'an and asked how the magic was. Su Qian'an opened his mouth and said that he was fine. I hired the teacher and Mr. Mubai. There is also the white robe of Si Tianjian. Zhu Xianling was taken aback. Second Uncle Su also seemed to be relieved at the moment. No wonder Si Tianjian's white clothes were also there. Su Linghua was also a little surprised. When did the second brother know Si Tianjian's people? Zhu Xian ordered to immediately open the old fritter mode of officialdom. Facing Su Pingji is a compliment. This is obviously also very useful to second Uncle Su. Su Qingqing's untimely cough interrupted the two of them touting each other. You seem to have misunderstood something. Mr. Mubai was not invited by me. It's my eldest brother's own relationship. I don't know Si Tianjian's white clothes either. The same was found by the eldest brother himself. Everyone was stunned on the spot. My mind is full of 3 words impossible. Su Linghua smiled. His eldest brother seems to be becoming more and more mysterious. I sit down for 4 days. For disciples, Song Qing, a genius in the field of alchemy. At the same time, it is also a wonder among alchemists. Between fanatics, he is known as an alchemist, addicted to the alchemy of living creatures. Xu Qian'an was quilted, invited to Song Qing's alchemy secret room. It's full of weird things, but the most abrupt, it's the living cat that's all wood. This great work was born not long ago. Song Qing fused cats and trees together. It is hoped that the cat's head will be cut off, and like a tree it grows new heads. In fact, Song Qing was also close to success. Even if you cut off its head, it will also grow in 3 days. But the only thing that fails is that it's completely turned into a tree. I can't move, I can't think. It can only be kept in water. Song Qing looked at Xu Qian'an with burning eyes. What do you think of my idea? Xu Qian'an did not answer. It was just that the look in the eyes that looked at her became strange. Song Qing frowned, somewhat disappointed. You also feel that there is a problem. Xu Qian'an finally chose to comfort Song Qing. I just feel like you're going in the wrong direction, because I've also thought about alchemy in this area. But I'll call it hybridization. Hybridization techniques. Song Qing chewed on the word. The eyes are getting brighter and brighter. Xu Qian'an continued. We can start with small things. Hybridization of the same species. For example, crossing 2 different breeds of cats. Let them give birth to entirely new species. Perhaps a completely new and excellent variety will be produced. Maybe it's going to be the other way around. But that's the charm of alchemy. What do you say? Song Qing became excited all of a sudden. I think alchemy is not limited to inanimate objects. I think living beings are also in the realm of alchemy. So I changed the cat. But the teacher disagreed. The teacher said that life is not in the realm of alchemy. For this reason, he also locked me up for a long time. Sue's wife said with peace of mind that the supervisor did a good job. Still, if you want to refute it, the governor didn't want to be confined. I have a proposal. You can get from plants, aspects. Plants are also life, but the nature is much less. I've read it in ancient alchemy books. An alchemy that coincides with your thoughts. Speaking of which, Xu Qian'an didn't continue. Song Qing listened halfway, but there was no follow-up. I feel sick all over. You say. It's just that Xu Qi didn't see it. Senior brother Song, all the things you have here are pretty good. Then hint at an immutable principle of alchemy. Song Qing immediately understood what Xu Qian'an meant. I can give you 3 gifts. Xu Qian'an gave him a thumbs up directly. Song Qing directly picked up a crossbow. At your current level of refinement, I think this item is for you. His most precious place is this crossbow carved the formation. The formation will increase the power of the sword. It can pose a threat to the masters of the god refining realm, but it can only be used 3 times. After that, the formation will dissipate. Xu Qian'an was moved. This is the Dharma instrument. The second uncle once said. At that time, Dafeng was able to win the Battle of Shanhaiguan. Artillery made a big difference, and half of the power of artillery comes from gunpowder. The other half comes from the formation. The magic weapon is a weapon unique to the Daebong dynasty. It is also the confidence of the Dafeng dynasty to dare to claim to be orthodox in the world. Song Qing adheres to the principle of knowledge sharing. Answered Xu Qian's question. Do you know what a 4-rank warlock is called? Xu Qian'an shook his head. He even knows what the 7 qualities of his 5-husband system are. I don't know yet. Song Qing said that it was the town teacher. What alchemists refine is mortal. The town master made a formation in his class, and he became a magic weapon. Xu Qian'an seemed to understand a little. The technique is 9 grades. The pharmacist is laying the foundation for the 8 pins of Wanqi. Wanqi master is to lay the foundation for the 7 feng shui masters. But the feng shui master with his next grade, the 6th-rank alchemist, has nothing to do with it. In fact, the 6th-rank alchemist is complementary to the 4-rank array master. Alchemists forge powerful arrays of weapons. The division processed it into a magic instrument. Xu Qian'an sighed that there was something in the warlock system. No wonder. The status of the eunuch in the Daebong dynasty was so high. I must soak Chu Kaiwei in my hands. There is no special purpose. I just want to be in this cold society. Harvest a sincere love. Xu Qian secretly made up his mind. The second magic weapon that Song Qing took out was to protect the state of mind. What is truly precious is restraint. The formation above, it can resist the power of the Qi refining realm master. Can withstand 6 hits. Master of the god refining realm 3 times. Copper iron bone mirror once. The last one is called bone burner. Just smear it in the history of the sword. I can ask for the life of the master of the god refining mirror. Copper skin bonoscopes are ineffective because Kinshir can't penetrate the other party's skin at all. Xu Qian nodded. I love all 3 things. As the saying goes, the hands are short. Eat people with a soft mouth. Xu Qian took Song Qing's 3 magic weapons. He sold Yuan Lao's grafting technology to Song Qing. But this can't be blamed entirely on Xu Qian, although he has a wealth of theories and knowledge. But the practical ability is too miserable to see. But it doesn't matter now. Anyway, there is Song Qing, an alchemy maniac, to help practice. If it's the end, Song Qing failed. That is, his own ability is not good. But if it succeeds, it's all your own. Song Qing didn't know anything about Xu Qian's badness, still stupidly immersed in the ocean of knowledge. Xu Qian walked briskly on the steps of the stargazing tower, carrying 3 magic weapons. I thought I could use one of these weapons. To the black market, as a reward for opening the gates of heaven. Promoted to 8 pins for yourself. But these things are useful. A little reluctant. But he really felt it. Sure enough, there were only white prostitutes. It is the eternal source of happiness for human beings. Reward yourself with joy today. I'll go to Golan tomorrow and listen. Then again, if you exchange all 3 of these artifacts for silver tickets, wouldn't you be able to slap your aunt's pretty face? Come to think of it, Xu Qian became more and more happy, jumping and singing all the way downstairs. The prostitute is too beautiful to sing, and it becomes more and more flavorful. If it weren't for the fact that this place is not suitable now, I wanted to jump on it. It's just that Xu Qian turned a corner. I met a group of strangers. The 2 sides looked at each other. Xu Qian's singing stopped abruptly. Expressionlessly, he stepped aside. I feel goosebumps. If it weren't for his thick skin, it is estimated that he would have been shot to death a long time ago. There were 3 people down the steps. The one in the play wears an electric blue robe. Sideburns frost white. Alagan temperamen. Handsome facial features. His eyes were like a dark pool. Precipitates the wind and frost washed out by the years. When the 3 of them passed by Xu Qian's side, the young man with a gentle temperament laughed, squinted at him. This moment, Xu Qian felt. I was watched by something terrible. Involuntary acrylic heartbeat intensified. The 3 of them continued up the steps until it disappears around the corner. Xu Qian was relieved. The guy seemed very dismissive of me, and mixed with hostility. Could it be that the lyrics I sang were too crazy? There are some things to pay attention to in the future, especially in public. Yes, Xu Qian sang and danced all the way downstairs. I won't be able to cover my eyes again this day. The ground cannot bury my heart. The Buddhas in the sky will disappear. The 3 men on the other side went up to the 7th floor. Song Qing hurriedly bowed his hand to them. It's just that Chu Kaiwei is still eating beautifully. Ignore the trio. The leader is Ning Wei Yuan, the leader of the watchmen. The other 2 are both watchmen. To the left of the golden gong is Nangon Shinro. On the right is Yang Yin. Song Qing hurriedly beckoned Duke Wei to take a seat. Wei Gong always drank too much wine. Taking a nap. I have to ask for you. Wait a moment. Wei Gong didn't care much. Picked up the tea and took a sip before going upstairs. Meet an interesting young man. He doesn't seem to be Xu Qian'an's disciple. Chu Kaiwei was just about to speak, was stopped by Song Qin, laughing at an insignificant little person. It's funny, though. The beating is famous. In the eyes of civil and military officials, he is like a tiger wolf. You don't need a reason to make a whole person. This organization is engaged in detective arrests and so on. At the same time, he participated in the work of collecting military intelligence and plotting against the enemy's frontier. It does not belong to the six parts, nor does it belong to the military system. It is the intelligence organization of the royal family. All the officials of Dabong have heard a sentence. Don't do bad things during the day. Don't be afraid to beat people at night. Song Qin is not allowed, did Qi, and unintentionally, to displease this powerful eunuch. Wei Gong asked the kid just now suspiciously. What an interesting method. Song Qin hesitated. Evaluate a genius, an alchemical genius. If it weren't for the fact that he had taken the wrong path of cultivation, if he worships the four heavenly sword, his name will be on the history books. Nangong Qian. Ronyin sneered and wore it for the palace. Xiaorong nodded slightly. How high is Xu Qian's status in his aunt's heart? Under the inner courtyard of the Xu mansion, people are making cotton clothes for the winter. At this time, Louis whispered and said softly, Yesterday, I went to look for Daoists. I found out that he didn't have winter clothes. The aunt glanced at the big maid, snorted coldly, and said, What do you want to say? Louis lowered her head and whispered, If not, let's make one for Daoists too. Annie snorted coldly and thought about it. That little bunny got angry with me when he got the chance. Let me make him clothes. There are no doors. Come to the house every day for dinner. I don't know if it's subsidized for the family. Just the amount of food he eats. It's going to eat me up. Ben misses his unlucky nephew, who saved the life of his family. It is not impossible to improve relations with him. But the little rabbit stabbed him with words when he had the opportunity. I've been with him. It's better not to go to the old saying. Wolves travel thousands of miles to eat meat. Dogs travel thousands of miles to eat. At this moment, an anxious voice came. Anne is crazy to diss nephew. Then the butler ran in panting. Something happened to Madame. The aunt froze in place when she heard this. Soon after, Aunt Lihua ran into the inner hall of Su's mansion with Rain. I saw Su Pingji holding the sleeping little bean. There were also Su Xingyan and Su Lingyue standing next to them. Second Uncle Su ran over in a hurry when he saw his daughter-in-law. So I said it in advance, reassuring that it was fine. Linning just fell asleep. By the way, he handed the young girl to his wife. The aunt hugged her daughter tightly. I was relieved when I was sure it was okay, but didn't go. Asked with tears as he asked, How about going out, and that's it? There is also Ningyan Tower. Su Pingji let out a sigh. Take what happened this morning. 1510 said to his wife. Lin Yin has already come out. This matter is settled for the time being. If it weren't for Lin Yin this time, Lin Yu and Lin Yin are in danger. He was a little stubborn, but it's not bad to treat your family. I'm replaced by ordinary people. Can you work so hard for our daughter? You're always looking at him unpleasantly. Felt that he cherished a lot of silver with 5 flowers. I felt like I was pulling him to grow up. How about saying a few words about him? I don't think he likes what he says. I'm honest against you. But have you thought about him? It's really so good to send people under the fence for 2 years. Isn't she sensitive? Lin Yu was bullied. She can rush up and fight people. Fortunately, there was no danger this time. Lin Yin really can't come back. You really don't feel distressed. The aunt was dumbfounded this time. It's just that the tears in the corners of her eyes speak for themselves. Su Lingyue listened and listened. Tears flowed down again. I feel that I have to repay my eldest brother well in this life. Su Xingyan looked at his mother, who had always been strong. Now his eyes are full of fear and remorse. Mother, though always, a mouthful of a gold-swallowing beast unlucky name. That guy. In fact, my mother still reassures my eldest brother after all. After all, it has been raised for almost 20 years. No matter how you can develop feelings, you can still develop feelings. Su Pingji glanced at his son. Snort again and be accompanied by your son. This time, I can't say that even he was bullied by Mr. Liu. Su Erlang said hello with his head full of heads. Don't arrange your own son like this. Soon after, the aunt carried Xiao doubting into the room and slept with him. Suddenly, he said Louis, shrink the east one of the old man and Erlang by one piece. Wait for the big man to come back. Measure his size. Louis was a little incredulous, and Madame had changed her mind. Auntie snorted in your eyes. Am I the kind of mean aunt? Louis is a bandit in her heart. Aren't you? On the other side, Xu Qian'an was grinding ink. That's right, he's going to start writing again. The author adheres to the spirit of water word counting. Abruptly, arranged a good habit of writing a diary for Xu Qian'an. November 16th, it was a day to remember. Because I finally decided, give up the unpretentious and boring life of the rich. I need power and force. I have two thoughts on this. The first is to change the path of practice. Try to practice Confucianism. As long as the two big Confucians are licked comfortably. I am confident that they will support me. Then myself in the martial arts road. Much better. Su Qi sighed. Others are pretending to be forced by poetry. And I'm trading with poetry. Maybe that's what makes the emperor different. But the downside is, and to recall the fear of being dominated by the life of the third year of high school. And I'm not necessarily the material for reading. I'm going to be 20 years old soon. It may be a little late to change the route. Second, try harder. Hook up with C. Tianjin's Kaiwei girl. With the support of the superintendent. Even if I don't work hard, I can live a nourishing life. The vision is beautiful, but there are drawbacks. I may say goodbye to my life of 3 wives and 4 concubines. At the same time, Gulen listened to the song and said goodbye. It's a bit of a sacrifice. Third, sell one of the magic weapons obtained by Xu Qian'an in exchange for the opportunity to open the gates of heaven. Disadvantages. The strength of the trial is still not able to fight the household prison. And if there is no backer, it is difficult to continue to advance bravely on the path of martial arts. The second uncle has been stuck at the peak of Qi refining for nearly 10 years. Is the best example of this. For now, hug Xu Tianjin and Yunlu Academy's thighs first. Planning a follow-up. I have a hunch. The turmoil of the tax and silver case will not end here. The front hall of the Su mansion. Xu Qian'an just climbed over the wall. I saw Su Lining swaying with a swaying horse. Small fists hit left and right. Hey, hey, roaring, dubbing himself. Xu Qian'an stepped forward. A gentle kick on his little ass. What kind of wind are you pumping? The little one fell down with a thud. Little Bean Ding got up, touching the buttocks, pointing at the eldest brother and roaring. I'm practicing dance. Big brother, are you provoking me? Xu Qian'an was surprised. It didn't take long to think about it, though. Probably something I experienced in the morning. A shadow arose in his young mind. The 5-year-old felt that it was time for him to learn martial arts. Good, next time something like this happens, I can help my eldest brother. Xu Qian'an smiled. Ama, what's wrong with provoking you? Xiao doubting glared at the eldest brother and said, people fight for breath. Takeo is yes too. This is called venerable. What is it? Xu Qian'an helped him add. It's dignity. Xiao doubting snorted coldly, right? It's dignity. I'm going to duel you. Then he ran over on 2 short legs. Whistling his fists, Xu Qian'an pressed one hand on his head. Little Bean is good, while screaming, while beating Wang Baquan indiscriminately. Xu Qian'an annoyed him. Discuss and give you a chicken leg. Count you as losing. Okay, Xiao Doubting's eyes are shining. Okay, your dignity. Xiao Doubting said big brother, while biting the chicken leg. What is dignity? Xu Qian'an felt a pain in his skull. Patting little Doubting on the shoulder, he said, promising in the study. Xu Qian'an got straight to the point. As for the opinion of the second uncle and cousin, for this afternoon's business, what do you guys think? Second Uncle Su's face was a little dazed. Isn't it in the past? Xu Qian'an frowned. You want to say that Zhou Li may still take revenge, right? Second Uncle Su waved his hand. No, it won't. If it's normal, it's fine. But today there is the great Confucianism of Yunlu Academy. And Xi Tianjin's white clothes came forward. I don't expect that the person surnamed Zhou will not dare to stir up the wind and rain again. Xu Qian said in a Chun voice. I've just got a message today from Xi Tianjin. The mastermind behind the tax and silver case is Zhou Shilang. Xu Qian'an pondered for a moment and said, So it seems what happened today is not accidental. It was Zhou Li's deliberate revenge. Xu Qian'an was a little pleased. Yes, it is worthy of being a reader who can take the exam. The brain works well. If only there was second Uncle Su. Today's secret talk is meaningless, because the second uncle was forced to be in a hurry. He would only say that he was a brother, and he would go with me to cut people. It's really a vulgar martial artist. A scholar who is usually weak in literature. There is also a bloody side. Xu Qian'an faced the torture of his eldest brother. Directly threw out a sentence that the first strike is stronger. Ruaping, who suffered later. Xu Qian'an was taken aback. It's hard to imagine. Xu Qian'an would say such decisive words. But as the head of the family, Uncle Su, when Yen felt that he could no longer be silent. Put away your ignorant and arrogant thoughts. Don't say you're just a lifter. You're considered a winner. I can't afford to mess with the Tobe Squire. It's just that he just finished speaking. Was ruthlessly vetoed by his nephew. I think Jiro's idea is right. It is not the Zhou officials that we have offended. It was Zhou Xianting, the head of the household department. Zhou officials may not dare to retaliate again. But what about Tobe Squiro? Not only did we spoil his good deeds, he also wounded his sister-in-law. As long as this account is a person with fireworks, there's absolutely no reason to endure it. Moreover, Su Fu is one with ants in Zhou Shilang's eyes. He didn't have any reason to let us go. Su Pingji still felt that it was inappropriate. We can't fight Zhou Shilang's Ningyan. You got acquainted with the white clothes of Xi Tianjin. New Year's is a student of Yunlu Academy. Rely on these two layers of relationship. As long as we keep to ourselves, no one dared to provoke them. Xu Qian reminded. Second uncle, you may not know. Xi Tianjin's white clothes do not interfere in the political affairs of the court. Su Ci went on to say that the tax money was dark. I'm not also a student at Yunlu Academy. Big brother can come back today. It's because Zhou Li doesn't stand, and the means are too low level. But if it's Zhou Shilang who makes a move, another tax case, it is reasonable and legal to let the Su family be beheaded. Xi Tianjin and Yunlu Academy. Could it be that we can rob the prison for us to fight against the law of the Great Confession? Feel the majesty of the head of the family. Su Pingji, who suffered the impact. His brow furrowed. But what are we going to do with Tobe Shiro? People are dignified. Xu Qian was also helpless. I don't know. I'm just a simple traveler. Xu Qian set his eyes on the handsome little brother. Jiro thinks so. Xu Qian'an was silent for a long time. I said slowly, I have been thinking about one thing just now. The tax money was robbed. The emperor thundered and was furious. Apparently, there is a lot of emphasis on silver. Li Dang will punish the offender severely. But it didn't. There are two possibilities I can think of. First, there is a backer behind the Tobe Squire. Second, the emperor has concerns. For example, there is a delicate balance to be maintained. Big Brother said, in several incidents, the household department impeached Zhou Shilang for being greedy for money and grain. Why he was not impeached? The other squire was not impeached. Tobe Shoshu. Su Qi was relieved. Zhou Shilang's political enemies are dealing with him. Teacher Su Xian'an Han Shou said, from ancient times to the present day, The core of imperial art is always balance. The emperor did not move Zhou Shirlang. It shows that it is very likely that the party and government are involved. Su Qi touched his chin, said after thinking, the emperor's mind technique may work in normal times. But right now, Jingxia is imminent. As long as you can catch Zhou Shirlang's handle, there's a great chance you'll kill him. Gyoka is an ancestral system. Even the emperor can't just go his own way. The core of Confucianism's dragon-slaying technique is the word reason. So Zhou Shirlang's political enemies will not stop there. Su Qian'an was taken aback. I didn't expect to criticize my cousin's mouth. The word dragon slaying would pop up. This is still the same Kuaishou cousin. Su's wife said with peace of mind. I just watch a lot of costume dramas. Su Qian'an asked in a more considerate tone. What does the big brother think should be done? Su's wife complained in her heart. You really won't admit defeat. If as a heroine, this Tsundra's character is not very pleasing. I prefer the 36D coquettish and cute royal sister. Su Qian said with a calm expression. Why did Zhou Shirlang make the tax and silver case? It's certainly not embezzlement. Because corruption can happen at any time. Why bother on the cusp of Jingxia? Unless he was in dire need of a sum of silver. The money is needed to fill the holes. And the reason for filling the hole, precisely to cope with the Qinxia.